It's to the seminar on the theme Solving India's Solid Waste Crisis, Lessons from Madurai. All those who assembled here as well as who joined us online, a very, very warm welcome. We are about to start the event very shortly. May I request you to put your mobile phones on silent mode. As you're aware, the detailed profile of all the distinguished speakers and the panelists can be viewed by scanning the QR code provided in the program sheet shared with the delegate kit. Please have a look at it. At the bottom, there is a QR code provided. Scanning that, you will get the detailed profile because I'll be reading out the very short profile from here. Delegates could also view the reports compiled by the Sundaram Climate Institute, the report that we are going to discuss today, by scanning another QR code which is provided there. So there are two QR codes provided, one for the report and one for the detailed profile of the speakers. Please make use of the question slip that's given there, and in case you want any additional question slip, you can please ask our volunteers here because as a procedure, as a protocol, we don't hand over the mics during seminars, just to keep in the interest of time. So there is one or two question slips that are provided in the kit. In case you want more, please you can always call for it from our volunteers. Based on the time available, the questions will be taken up by the panelists. So these are some instructions which I thought or announcements that I'll make, and we are about to begin this seminar shortly. For those who are visiting MMA for the first time, there is a restroom for the women just outside this. There is a restroom for the men slightly outside on the foyer. And then there are restrooms available on the second floor as well, just in case you want to use it during the break period. So I'm sure all of you have got a copy of the agenda. Please go through the agenda. We will try and stick to the agenda as much as possible. Great. So I'll be back very soon. Enjoy this seminar. I'll be back very soon. Video call. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I cordially welcome all the distinguished speakers, dignitaries, and the delegates to this unique seminar on the theme, Solving India's Solid Waste Crisis, Lessons from Madurai. Those who joined here at the Madras Management Center and all those who joined us online, a very, very warm welcome and a good morning to all of you. May I also request all those who are in the foyer, if you had your cup of tea, to please move in, please. To begin the proceedings, may I now invite the dignitaries to take their place on the dais. Mr. K. Mahalingam, President, Madras Management Association, Partner Director, TSM Group of Companies. Yes, let's welcome each one of the panelists with a good round of applause, please. Ms. Mridula Ramesh, Founder, Sundaram Climate Institute and Executive Director, Sundaram Textiles Limited. Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, Chancellor Chairperson, Governing Council, Kriya University. Dr. Prasad Modak, Managing Director, Environmental Management Center Private Limited and Director, eConnect Knowledge Foundation. Ms. Nalini Shekhar, Executive Director, Arisudela Innovations. And Ms. Anjali Bansal, Founding Partner, Avana Climate and Sustainability Fund and Independent Board Director, Tata Power, Nestle and ONDC. Thank you, dignitaries, for all of you to taking time off to be here today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome them with a big round of applause. Thank you. And to begin the proceedings, may I now invite Mr. K. Mahalingam, is the President MMA, Distinguished Alumni of NIT Kolkata, NIT Trichy and IIM Kolkata, with over 35 years of experience. This transformative leader and impactful investor spearheaded T.S. Mahalingam and Sons into a respected South Indian automobile aftermarket brand. An active investor and mentor, he guides operations from the Chennai Angels and also guides aspiring entrepreneurs. May I request Mr. Mahalingam to deliver the welcome address, please.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning on a very, very warm and humid August morning in Chennai. I hope it's something to do with climate change or not to do with climate change. When I was given this task of giving the formal welcome address and I read this topic, Solving India's Solid Waste Crisis, Lessons from Madurai, one word struck me a lot, the word waste. Not in the noun form, but in the verb form. I just was wondering after meeting some of the speakers, all the speakers last evening, that how much time many of us, or most of us, I would say, barring a few like those on the stage and a few here, waste our time on issues which have very little impact or no impact on how the planet we live on is or impacts it. We concentrate on issues which give us instant gratification and not worrying about the future. On the other side, we have this huge problem of the environment, climate change, and water and stuff like that. I should thank Mridula for bringing to the table some of these issues. I think without this, many of us here, at least me, for me, till now it's been about water, climate, etc. I didn't know solid waste was such a big deal, honest to God. So bringing to the table, Mridula, really, MMA really benefits from this. Thank you so much for this, first of all. Let me start the formal part of the welcome address. I would like to welcome Mr. Lakshmi Narayan, co-founder, Cognizant, Chancellor, Chairperson, Governing Council, Kriya University. He wears many of the hats, but for us, Lakshmi is one of our gurus, inspirations in many ways, and he makes significant investments for entrepreneurs and supports entrepreneurs in multiple areas, including green energy and sustainability. So to hear from him today will be a great boon for all of us. Thanks, Lakshmi, for accepting our invitation. Then move to Dr. Prasad Modak. I think I should confess this, Anjali. Dr. Prasad Modak, and a little less Nalini, because Mridula has spoken so much about all of you that it's like for me reading a book and seeing them on screen kind of experience for me. I'm already so familiar about you that when I met you, I had what is easier to identify. Thanks. Dr. Prasad Modak, what should I say? Expert in this area, much sought after. Worked with many multilateral agencies, advised many governments, many financial institutions, development institutions. All in all, a most sought after speaker and thought leader in this space. And we at MMA are really privileged to have you here, sir, talking to us. Thank you. Ms. Anjali Bansal, I would like to welcome Executive Founding Partner, Avana Climate and Sustainability Fund, Independent Board Director of Tata Power, Nestle, ONDC. Obviously, a very high pedigree and background. The fact that Anjali is taken time off to fly all the way to Chennai is indeed a great privilege for us. Apart from being a thought leader, etc., Anjali in her own way catalyzes a response to all this by funding startups and entrepreneurs in this space. And I think that's the way this will evolve. And in some of our investee companies are also part of this great challenge. Thanks, Anjali, for accepting our invitation, being to us. Welcome, Nalini Shekhar, Executive Director, Hasiru Dala Innovations. For me, that's a name which is very, very, very familiar because her husband Shekhar and I were classmates at Calcutta. So we have discussed many of their initiatives and achievements in our group, and we actually many times don't have lost count of how many times we have congratulated them. Actually. So, Nalini, I think Nalini is, from what I gather and understand, from apart from all our WhatsApp group conversations, is an expert on waste and solid management, policy advisor, and has transformed the livelihoods of waste speakers by training them, etc. Thanks, Nalini, for coming all the way from Bangalore. Thanks, Shekhar, for being here also. You're going to be privileged to listen to both of you. And I cannot not welcome a part of MMA, Mridula Ramesh. I think she's as much part of MMA as any of us because she's been part of anchoring many of the initiatives, launched many of her books here. Her earlier report on water created waves. And I would like to say a current report on this is going to, in Mridula's words, raise many burning issues. Thanks. Pardon the pun, Mridula. I couldn't resist it. Okay. Finally, I'd like to welcome young Ananth, whose exhibition we're going to see today. So he's been inspired by Mridula, I assume. And okay, so we're going to have the inauguration of the exhibition shortly, and we're going to talk about it. Thank you all of you for accepting our invitation. I would like to welcome all those present here and those who are watching it online. Must say, post-COVID, we have thousands watching online many of these programs during the event and many more after the event. Thanks for being here on a Saturday morning. A little about MMA, founded in 1956, 9,000 members, 10 chapters, won the Best Local Management Award from All India Management, 14 years running, including the last year, 2020 to 23. And all that credit and the credit for doing this even so flawlessly goes to Group Captain Vijay Kumar and his team. I'm not going to say much about the topic because I don't want to sound shallow and hollow. I'll just say one thing that for us, as I said earlier, discussions like this help us become aware of what's actually happening and possibly raise thoughts in our minds and trigger small steps and actions in a way that we can make this planet a better place to live in. I think that's the thrust of today's discussion. And Mridula said it in so many words at the end of this session. If somebody can highlight the risks of solid waste burning, I would have achieved my goal partially at least. That's what we're looking forward to, insights and hearing from the experts, such a panel of experts here. Each one brings a different flavor to the whole discussion. So we're really eagerly looking forward. I'd like to thank CAS, our partner, for co-sponsoring this program. So as I said in the beginning, welcome to all our past office bearers, vice presidents. One final thought at the end of this discussion, maybe we'll not have many answers, but many of you will be more aware. And we would have started the process of being aware of what's happening and taking stops. We may not have answers to the burning questions, but sure, we'll have some insight into what we should be and what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalingam, for setting the tone of the seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Mridula Ramesh, founder of Sundaram Climate Institute and executive director of Sundaram Textiles Limited, award-winning author and a climate advocate. She focuses on waste and water solutions and is an active clean tech angel investor with over 20 startups in her portfolio. A Cornell graduate with an MBA from Kellogg, Mridula also serves on the boards of WWF India and NIT Andhra Pradesh, championing sustainability and innovation. May I now invite Ms. Mridula Ramesh to deliver the introductory remarks, please.
Before we get that sorted, I always like to know how to pitch my talk. So just to get a sense, how many of you are from the NGO space? Could you please raise your hands? Okay. And how many of you are from the startup space? Could you please raise your hands? Okay. And how many of you are from the corporate space? Could you please raise your hands? And how many of you are from our students, general public, etc.? Okay. So we have a good mix. Okay. That always helps to set the tone. So what I'd like to share is what I have learned over the last 10 years or so. The first thing is that waste you can think of as your shadow, just as you can't separate your shadow from your body, you can't separate waste from the way we live. And one thing I will say is that we are very, very wasteful. Every day, the human beings generate about 1.3 million elephants. So imagine 1.3 million elephants heading towards the landfill, being burnt, going into your nearest stream, and that you get an idea of how much waste we generate. In India, the number that is commonly said is about 150,000 tons a day. This is a highly uncertain number because we weigh the house and we weigh the waste in our house, but I doubt most people weigh the waste in theirs. And I think any studies done on this topic say the number is probably 2x of this. And most of it gets burnt in one way, shape, form or the other. It goes to the landfill and burns or decays there, or it gets dumped into your nearest stream or empty plot and gets burnt there. So a lot of it is burnt, and that's something we need to keep in mind. Plastic, look around you, there's plastic everywhere. It's not going anywhere in a hurry. And this actually shocked me. If we take the amount of plastic that has been produced since 1950 and we converted it into elephants and we lined them top to tail, they could go around the sun, forget the earth, they could go around the sun twice. That's how much plastic we've generated. And a lot of that has also ended up in our streams and oceans or being burnt. India generates about 20,000 small cars worth of plastic waste every day. But this is the problem, right? The waste itself is not a problem. Earlier also when, before the advent of plastic, we generated waste, but, you would have like the mak totti or whatever they called it to just compost it and reuse it in your fields. But the big problem here is the red slice of the pie, where 40% of the waste is just not managed. And what is considered recycled, that little biscuit-colored slice in the bottom, developed countries actually ship a lot of that to developing countries like us. So they put it as recycled on their books, but it's actually shipped to us to manage. I mean, it's expensive, right? It costs the world $252 billion. And I think many of us who work with, it's so easy for us to say, oh, these government, they're useless, they're corrupt, etc. But that's wrong because they don't have money. And, municipalities in India tend to be poorer than their counterparts across the world. And because they don't have enough money, the infrastructure required to manage this waste becomes very, very lacking. And so the waste ends up in the oceans, in the landfills where it burns, and Mali, you mentioned climate change. Every summer, this is a periodic thing, landfills across India are bursting into flame. From Delhi to lowly, my little town of Madurai, to Chennai, to Bangalore, to everywhere else, landfills are bursting into flame. So how do I know this? Why do I know this? This is the meat of our study. Over the past 6 years, Malati, who's sitting there, and her team have gone into the bylanes of Madurai and spoken to 2,389 people who were kind enough to share their version of their waste reality and their water reality with us. And their stories combined is what gives this report its shape. Most people had the municipal corporation collected its waste from most people. But I think any of you who run a company know that most is a very dangerous world. If most of the time your software worked, it's not a great software. If most of the time your phone worked, it's still a problem, right? So most of the time, waste gets collected. So when it gets collected, there's no problem. But once it's not collected, people tend to burn quite often, or throw it out, or dump it into the nearest stream, where then it gets burnt. Okay, and that's the issue of the thing. But the biggest problem, right? So why do people burn their waste? Again and again, I come back to that. Why is it okay to burn your waste? I think at some level, we think Agni Parikshay, so Agni Bhagavan will purify everything, so we burn our waste. And so we asked the first question in our questionnaire was actually this: does waste bother you? I'm going to ask the audience this. Does waste bother you? Does waste bother you? Yeah? Okay, great. Look, this is, when we asked this question to 2,389 people, a third of the people said, no, it doesn't. This was the big aha moment for us, right? There's a small influence of education. So people with no formal education, a larger proportion of them felt that waste didn't bother them. But it was fairly constant across the years, across income groups, across sex, across neighborhoods. This was a finding. And this is a huge problem because most people felt, who knows? Why should I bother? Our house is clean. This was a very common thing. My house is clean, so it doesn't bother me. And then someone said disgusting, whether it's the house or the roads. But does that mean we can go clean the roads? But waste is a problem. And let me spend 2 minutes just explaining, quickly running through why. In India, 2.18 million people die prematurely because of air pollution. But what really got me, and we blame our vehicles for that, right? But what really got me is burning waste is a huge source of PM pollution, right? So if you're thinking of the spear that is air pollution that is getting at your lungs, the tip of the spear is the particles from burnt waste. Again, when we ask people, does waste burning bother you? Not affected, no comments. 11% said it was a necessity. And, I can see their point of view. If you have like a kupatoti sitting in your empty plot and sitting there, no one's collecting it. Finally, one day you just burn it and you're done with it. So mosquitoes fly away. This was a big one. People felt it was okay to burn because mosquitoes fly away. We don't have any other thing. Corporation fellows itself aggregate and they burn it. This was another thing. But I won't take too much time because I'm conscious of it. But look, burning waste releases the same chemicals that were released in the course of the Vietnam War. And the American government thought it was so dangerous that they took it to a faraway island near Hawaii and burnt it. But today we are releasing it in every corner of India as we burn it. And there is, once you create that chemical, it doesn't go away. It lives for tens of years. And then it accumulates in your fat. And if you're eating fish, finished. I see two people who are probably fish eaters sitting there. If you eat fish, you're finished because it accumulates in fat. Yeah. Anjali and I work in climate. Many of you also do. You know, climate is all about solar panels, renewable energy, EVs. You get an EV startup, I think Narsi is also somewhere in the thing. If you get an EV startup, they won't even give you their deck because they're so hot, okay? But solid waste, managing solid waste, and I know Som and Sushil and all are here. Managing solid waste is actually a great way to contain your greenhouse gas emissions. Bangalore, WRI did a study that said 11% of their greenhouse gas emissions comes from solid waste. So it's a big deal. It's probably a bigger deal than EV. And Madras doesn't need any introduction to flooding. Your flooding owes its origins to solid waste also. If your Kuam and your Adayar and all the channels leading there were not blocked with solid waste, the flooding would have been somewhat less. I'm going to skip over this. Stray dogs is a major population. I used to walk outdoors. I've stopped because of being chased by strays. Dengue, my aunt tells me there is a dengue epidemic underway. Those mosquitoes don't fly more than 100 meters. So if you had actually managed your solid waste, they wouldn't have containers to breathe in. And therefore, the epidemic would have been much less than it is today. But all of this, right? I told you 30% of people said their waste didn't bother them. So the next question we asked was, we gave all these conditions. We gave stray dogs, we gave air pollution, we gave flooding, water stagnation thing, and said, have you or your family been affected by this in the last 6 months? Okay, so people said all these things. But what was really interesting is, this is just the chart of people who said no to the first question. So they said, look, waste doesn't bother me. But over 60% of them had been affected by problems that are engendered by solid waste. So they were not making the connection. See, again, out of sight is out of mind. My house is clean. It is gone away. It doesn't bother me. But sorry, folks, it does. So then we said, okay, before I get there, I want to say, look, there are startups out here, there are NGOs out here. This problem is solvable. Okay, the good news is there are solutions that exist in every step of the way. From collecting your waste, to managing your waste, to managing wet waste, to managing dry waste, to managing your cooking oil, managing everything. You're going to hear from a man who uses your waste plastic, those shopping bags to make plastic roads. You're going to hear from a person who takes your leftover food to make gas to power vehicles, right? It replaces your cylinder. Yesterday Mali was talking about, Shekhar actually asked me, are there scalable commercial enterprises? I come from textiles. Okay, 100 kilos of cotton becomes 71 kilos of yarn. The 29 kilos becomes waste. I know this because every kilo, every gram we weigh and we reuse and we sell, and that's our profit. I don't see too many jeans. I was hoping for at least one pair of jeans for me to tell the story, but your jeans are made from that waste. Okay, a lot of the products you use today in textiles is made from that waste. So if you actually collect it in a usable manner, there are solutions in every step of the way. But if you notice what I said usable manner, right? So we need your cooperation, and all this collection takes money. Okay, these are the 2 points I said. So we asked people, what is their role? So we said, what is your role in managing your waste? Okay. 50% said they don't know. Or they gave us that smile. I think Malte will be able to tell you that that smile, that you hit a blank wall once you said that. Then we said, avoid littering, education. Then we said, okay, some people said segregate. So what does that mean? They said, we will be happy. A lot of the men, I see a lot of men in this audience, they said, it is my wife's job. Okay, that was also there. Then we asked people, do you know what segregation is? You know, we were really happy that most people said they knew what segregation was. We were thrilled. And the educated people said they knew precisely what segregation was. But then we asked people, do you know why you segregate? Okay, 70% said, yes, we know why we segregate. Then we asked them, have you received any training for segregation? Only 20% of those who said they knew why they segregate had received training. Then when we asked, what is the role in waste management? Only 20 out of 2,389, 1% say segregation is my role. And if people don't segregate, and Dr. Modak, I know we spoke about this, if we don't segregate, a lot of the solutions vanish, right? And you're left with landfills, dumping and burning. And then we said, I told you this takes money. And we asked people, do you pay for waste collection or management? 40% said yes. We were very happy. But then when we looked at the comments, we found that was the 10 ரூபாய் 20 ரூபாய் that people gave as a bribe to their collection, or தீபாவளி அப்போ ஏதானு கொடுக்கறது, இல்லைன்னா பெரிய ஃபங்க்ஷன் இருக்கு, நிறைய குப்பை இருக்கு, ஸோ அதை எடுத்துட்டு போங்கிறது, அது கொடுக்கறது. That's not going to really help. That incentivizes dumping and burning. It doesn't incentivize management. So, what do I want? What is my ask here? Right, I've shared what we found. There's a lot more in the report. The report is online, and Group Captain will share the link. What is my ask here? Today, most waste is either dumped, it's burnt, and any recycling that happens at the mercy of waste pickers. They're invisible, right? And later in the show, we'll do something to make them a little more visible to you. But what is my ask here? First, I think waste needs its day in the sun. It needs to become a truly burning issue, right? And I think that's because in terms of climate action, it's probably one of the most potent things you can do, both in terms of mitigation, which is getting your carbon emissions down, and in terms of adaptation. So people from NGOs, when you're looking for funding, I know climate is a hot button word, please include this, okay? The second thing, we keep hearing about jobs, and many of the PLI schemes of the government are geared towards getting more jobs into India. If you stopped burning your waste and you managed it instead, and there are people here, I've spoken to each of them testing this number, you can create 1 to 2 million new jobs across the length and breadth of the country. That's a big deal, right? And you get more sustainable cities. I've just gone through this. It reduces stress on agriculture. It helps your flooding. I'm sure my house got flooded this Chennai this December. So if yours did, keep this in mind. And really speaking, I'm just going to go through this very quickly because I don't think I have the time. But please take the time to go through the report, because we have solutions at every step of the way, right? This just gives you a flavor of what you can do and what is happening. I think we have the wrong study, so I'm just going to go a little quickly and then end by saying, if there is one action you want to take for yourself, for your health, for planetary health, and for a more equal society, please manage your waste. That's all. And pay for it and know that you have a role in it, doing it too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brudra, for setting the context for the seminar today. You've given us the good news that the problem is solvable. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, much awaited time. It's a privilege to launch the report and an exclusive video. First, the report, may I request the dignitaries on the stage to step forward to launch the report here physically. May I request Group Captain Vijay Kumar to join them on the stage, please. And ladies and gentlemen, you can scan the QR code that's given to you on the program sheet, and the report is already available for you all. May I request you all to just step forward. Let's give them a big round of applause. Phenomenal work that has gone into compiling this report. You all would imagine. Please go through the report today and you will understand the magnitude of work that's gone into compiling this report. So it's indeed a pleasure that, we are taking the case study from Madurai for the rest of India. We will also send the link. Yeah, we'll also send the link of the report to all of you who come here today and all those who've joined us online. And you could also scan through the QR code. Yeah, I told them. Right. So, Dr. Prasad Modak is the Managing Director of Environmental Management Center Private Limited and Director of eConnect Knowledge Foundation. With a PhD in Environmental Engineering from AIT Bangkok, he has 4 decades of experience advising UN agencies, multilateral institutions, and governments globally on environmental policy and sustainability. May I now invite Dr. Prasad Modak to deliver the keynote address, please.
Very good morning, and dignitaries on the dais, and I would like to really thank you, Madurai, for inviting me here today. It's a great pleasure. This is the first time I'm getting associated with MMA. Thank you so much, Group Captain, for your hospitality. I'm going to talk building on what has been earlier said and introduced by Mridula, the subject of waste economy. It's interesting to bring these 2 words together, isn't it? Waste and economy. And that's something I think interesting. Yeah, I think they should work here. I feel a little bit qualified to speak on this subject for a couple of reasons. The first is I was engaged some years ago to prepare what we call as a global waste management outlook. And that gave me an opportunity to see what's going around the world when it comes to the subject of waste. And later on, I spent some time to produce Asia Waste Management Outlook. Now, both these studies were commissioned by the International Solid Waste Association, ISWA, and the United Nations Environment Programs, which is called as the IETC, International Environmental Technology Center in Osaka. And then later on, I published a book on the subject of circular economy, where again, my effort was to see what's going around the world in this subject. My presentation will have probably 1 sentence on every slide, so don't worry. It's just going to be more of a picture. The first thing we have to understand, the waste is created by humans and not by nature. That means a lot for us to understand the dynamics of waste. When we call waste as a wet waste and a dry waste, and I'm sure, Madula, in your surveys, you must have found the difference compositions, the percentage. In fact, we look at dry waste is a reflection of our consumptive lifestyles. It's very important. Just have a look at the kind of dry waste which we produce every day. And that's the story of our consumption patterns. To manage waste, we must think in the life cycle perspective. We just should be never looking at how do I handle the waste generated. We have to go in the life cycle thinking. I'll talk about it, but I've been in juries of many of the innovation platforms dealing with waste. Everybody wants to look at problem of waste, that how do I recycle? How do I recover? We don't question the life cycle, how the waste in fact gets generated. This is just an illustration of life cycle of building materials. So let's think in the life cycle perspective. And then as we bring that thought, then we talk about reduce. In fact, we start with refuse first, and then reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, all across our production, distribution, and consumption patterns. And many of us believe that this is what we understand as circular economy, because we're looking at really from the life cycle perspective. There are more than 200 definitions what circular economy actually means. But just to give you a sample, we have a very interesting definition from European Union. We have a think tank definition from Ellen MacArthur. And we also have a legal definition of circular economy, because that's a law in China, and that gives the definition what circularity can mean. Let's not get into these wordplay in terms of definition, but simply the idea is to explain circularity in 4 circles. And we have the most inner circle where we cut down the consumption of virgin resources somehow. So we reduce, we refuse, and we reuse. And then we go into the next circle, which is extending the product life. We want to repair, don't throw, refurbish, and renovate. Only when you cross the second circle, we think about that how do we bring in value using tech, creating green jobs, we talked about it, through return, recycle, recover, and very importantly, remanufacture. But the outer circle is most creative, which is transformative. And that is based on innovation and complete rethink. And that's the way how the circles ripple out. And we call this as really understanding circular economy. And circular economy is abused by the word recycling at the project level. And I've been doing my best whenever I work with governments, with entrepreneurs, that don't please look at circularity as equal to recycling, which is not really true. Talking about innovation, innovation often results in addressing challenges that appear to be impossible to solve. That's why we say innovate. In many times in environmental field, we don't use I, but we say E and say innovate. And that's the whole idea, right? Waste recycling, as I said, is often a focus for innovation in waste economy. But is it always a good idea? For example, a quick fix innovation. I see many entrepreneurs doing this, where you recycle waste plastic to make toys for the children. What we don't remember that the plastic contains flame retardants. And these flame retardants, if you want to remove, it's just not economical to recycle plastic. And these flame retardants, which are hidden in the toys, when the child will lick the toy, will leach these flame retardants. There have been many evaluations and stories around how they cause a situation of even a cancer. So it's not something that we are looking for quick fix innovations. And take a pride that we're recycling. We're doing lots of work. Everything goes into building materials, everything goes on roads, which is also quite a debate whether it's a good solution or not on a long-term basis. We got to be therefore responsible in recycling. We need recycling standards first. We have been talking about it with the government of India so many times, that you need recycling standards. And there are already moves on global recycling standards. We don't have them still. It will take years to make these standards, years. Even a neighboring country like Thailand has done so much progress in waking up earlier to start making recycling standards. So without these boundaries, pushing recycling is not a great idea. Can we think differently? Can we design the product to make them more easy to repair, disassemble, and recyclability also can be made easier? That's the upstream I'm thinking. That's where I see need for innovation, which is still not there, showing much traction. There is a big debate that should we segregate wet and dry waste, and you touched upon it, and there are now reasons people believe that people will never segregate correctly, and you need to make use of AI and robotics to segregate. 7 big cities in the United States have shifted away from segregation. But they believe that robotics giving them 99% separation efficiency. By not having separate vehicles to collect 3 or 4 types of bins, there is a significant greenhouse gas emission. So there is a debate. I'm not saying this is the right answer, but there is a debate. We got to go deeper into this kind of debate. Important in all this is role of logistics. And therefore, waste is an issue which is best handled at the decentralized level as much as we can. It's not the idea only for a cheaper or more cost-effective solution, but getting community involved. And that perspective is very, very important. But if you bring in all that and start looking at the recycling economics, it depends a lot on collection, sorting, transportation. You got to clean, you got to figure out then the conversion. Prior to that, you got to store, and then you find a market. You got to look at everything. If you start applying your thoughts on every step, recycling economics is not easy. And that's very important where you see businesses failing. We sometimes use the word decluttering. I call as the art of discarding. And this is different from littering. I have here an example, which is actually from textiles, where we declutter and reuse, get the fiber back again for reprocessing in textiles. So responsible behavior really matters here. You know, which option you take. Do you litter or you do a very, very responsible discarding for basically now we say it's like upcycling. There is a very deep subject called the psychology of pollution. And people who live in the neighborhoods where there's an extensive littering and mismanagement of waste have been found to be immoral. It's very interesting. And the world study on this concept has been piloted in Delhi on a big scale, and people are losing their morality because they are amongst the dump sites next, you know, the drains, which are choked by waste. And when you accept that way of living, even your morality is affected. That's again a very interesting aspect. A question often comes that, is there a socially optimal recycling rate? And very interesting work by a group of Japanese researchers shows that, well, don't cross even a figure of 10 to 12% of recycling rate. It's a very detailed analysis, and you all should read this, that how did this person, Kinman, identify this interesting number that is not worth recycling too much. We don't have such kind of studies. I'm not saying 11% is a great number, but the inquiry of doing that is very, very important. Recycling rates are not officially published in India, but look at the recycling rates around the world. They're quite miserable, but some countries have shown a very high recycling rate. We need such kind of a study in India to be done, that what's this country's recycling rate. And we know a lot of recycling is difficult to understand because we are in the informal sector, which is really the one responsible for recycling, and numbers are hard to get. But the idea is to question and figure out what's our recycling rate. Because the market is expanding. The Asia-Pacific waste recycling market is literally booming. But the question then comes that, are we ensuring adherence with the health and safety standards of the informal workers? What is the arrangement? Well, the market is booming. Investments are happening, and more players are coming in the waste economy. So you have very interesting dialogue between these two, so to say, robots. One is saying, please continue giving me more waste for my business. I want to recycle. I want more waste. And you have somebody talking here, I'm now looking for waste, less processing to become more profitable and compliant. There is a need, therefore, to consume less, extend the product life cycle, repair, refurbish as much possible. Investments in startups, some of them which I am involved, are less on refurbishing and recycling. And I have seen in states like Bihar, West Bengal, a booming investment happening in startups who do mobile phone repairing and extend the product life. That's a great business idea. And we don't still have many people into this kind of entrepreneurship. So we need to expand the envelope of recycling to remanufacturing. And this is so critical. And that's where we want to see the innovation. Remanufacturing is not still formally in this country. You have a great example of Remanufacturing Council in the European Union. You have a Remanufacturing Council in the United States. And despite last 5 years of my push with Niti Aayog, we are not in a position to conceive a Remanufacturing Council in India. And that's, to me, an innovation fountain and a great investment opportunity. Because remanufacturing as a concept is very close to the life cycle flow of the materials and putting back the wasted products back into second, third, fourth life. This is something I'm not detailing, but this is what. So I was doing mission circular economy for Government of India. At that time, we strongly are pushing, even now, that we need an Indian Remanufacturing Council, and that may take care of many of the issues, what we are saying earlier. And then we need, of course, a huge opportunity we have for skilling people, creating jobs, and so on and so forth. Just to end, I want to reiterate 4 important principles, and it's often called circular economy as material management. We have an inner circle I talked about earlier. We have to keep the material as long as possible in the cycles of material use. There is a cascading. Materials move from one sector to another. We have many examples of such a cross flow. That's important. But the most important is pure inputs, avoidance of contaminated materials in the first place. That affects the recycling economics significantly. We identified with the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers 10 chemicals and recommended them that could we look at them as a phase out. Phase out is a very important strategy in overall materials management. So to end, we got to be looking at 360 degrees. We could look at waste economy as a smart and sustainable material management. This should lead really to a truly inclusive circular economy. And it's not just about technology, innovation, finance, policies, and laws, but it should rather be a people movement. Such a transformation should be everybody's responsibility. And therefore, you want to see the change in the behavior as the basics. And therefore, what we need to do is improve sustainability literacy. Sustainability literacy, you will be surprised, is in the definition of India's literacy. Only thing, it hasn't been focused and brought in again that you have to get people, first of all, sustainability literate to understand that it's everybody's responsibility. I'm stopping at this point. Thank you so much for inviting me. 1 second.
Thank you so much, Dr. Modak, for that very, very insightful address. A lot of data points there and a lot of takeaways for us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan, Chancellor, Chairperson of the Kriya University, is the co-founder of Cognizant, as we are all aware. Veteran of the IT industry with over 4 decades of experience, deeply committed to advancing higher education, research, and entrepreneurship. May I now invite Ms. Lakshmi Narayanan to deliver the inaugural address, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, congratulations to Sundaram Climate Institute, the team, and Mridula for bringing out this report. You got to see a glimpse of that report through the presentation that Mridula made. But I got an opportunity to see that report prior to coming here. And it's a very data-rich, very easy read type of a report that highlights just the issues of waste in a small community, a community of about 2,000 plus families in a neighborhood, conducted over a period of time, almost like a longitudinal study, okay, by volunteers, by people from Sundaram Climate Institute. And it's not an easy task to go to the places where many of these disadvantaged people live, whose problem of day-to-day is livelihood, to go and talk to them about waste, which is probably not in their minds most of the day, and to elicit answers to questions that are many times difficult to understand. That's a very, very creditable work that has been by the team, and that's been done over a period of time. And I'm sure the team would have had some traumatic experiences. So congratulations to the team for having done that. So the report highlights from the perspective of a small community, what is their perception of waste, how do they deal with it, what are the implications, etc., which is quite different from many of the perceptions that we would have, the ideas that we have. For those of us, I would consider when it comes to waste management, we are the elite because we are living in a city where the services are far greater than what's available in some of the tier 2, tier 3, or the interior parts of the country. Okay. For us to even relate to the problems that they have is going to be difficult. But that's something that you'll be able to relate to once you go through the report and find out what their perception is. Why is something that is unimportant for us so important for them, and vice versa? The problem of waste management is not something of yesterday or today. It's been there for several years. And as we heard from the speakers, both from Mridula as well as from Dr. Modak, there have been solutions. There have been very thoughtful solutions about reuse, about recycling, about repurposing, etc., etc. The problem is when it comes to implementing them, and more importantly, implementing them at scale in a country of our size. Do we have enough examples of those type of implementations? There are a few, but not many. Why is it that an experiment that's been so successful in a city like Indore has not been replicated in any other city? Indore, I think there are something like 78 wards where waste segregation is near 100%. Door-to-door collection is near 100%. And it's been rated the cleanest city consistently for a number of years. Okay. Great example. Okay. But there is only one Indore in the country. Can there be many more Indores? Two, I think there'll be other examples. Some of the speakers, like Dr. Nalini, Shekhar, who is on the stage, will talk about some of the scaled examples in Bengaluru. But there is one specific example that I want to talk about. This is in our own state, in the city of Kumbakonam. Kumbakonam took plastics as one area, plastics segregated and focused on managing plastic waste in a very thoughtful way with the help of the municipal corporation and the industry in and around Kumbakonam, that area. They managed to segregate plastic waste and supply it to two major cement companies that are present in that region, Dalmia Cement and Ultratech, who take this segregated and somewhat cleaned waste, process it, and use it as fuel and for other purposes within the cement plants. Okay. Thereby saving costs, reusing the plastic that is being used at a cost. Of course, there is a cost of transportation, there's a cost of incinerating or melting them or burning them in a controlled manner that is useful, generating energy out of it, and so on. So I thought it was one just isolated example of plastics alone being segregated and recycled. But that experiment, that model that is followed in Kumbakonam has already been implemented in 11 other locations. Okay, just that we don't hear about all these examples in order for us to, one of the things that Mridula said was, what is it that we as a group can do is to talk about these examples, talk about good best practices that are working, talk about models that have been implemented so that others can take the lead in the initiative and implement them in their own neighborhood. So that's one part of the story. The summary that the way I would conclude that part is to say, solutions are available. Implementation is a challenge. Implementation at scale is a bigger challenge, but implementation examples are available. It's our responsibility to scale it up, working with all the other stakeholders. And there's one telling answer in the book, in the report that has been published, when a family was asked about plastics, why are you throwing it? Why are you using it? They're saying because they're being produced. Stop the production of plastic, that will be automatic. It's very easy to say that because plastics are there in every part, everything, every component that we use, the phones that we use, and the medical area, the syringes that are there, all of them are made of plastic. And so there's no way this world can function without plastics. We can thoughtfully, of course, replace plastics in certain areas. Glass as a material has been a very good substitute for plastic, and that's something that is happening increasingly. And the plastic production will hopefully come down. One of the things that's likely to happen is as we move away from fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is the primary source. 99% of the plastic that people use is coming from crude oil, other fossil fuels. Once the usage of that is reduced, hopefully people will not mine or will not use crude exclusively for producing plastics because economically it appears to be unviable. However, if because of the consumption of fossil fuel or crude comes down dramatically, the prices may come down, which will make it attractive for plastic production. So that is something that at a policy level, somebody has to apply their mind and say, this is the correct level of production. This is the way plastic should be priced. This is the way it should be used. That will continue to remain a problem, but managing the production, reducing the production at the crude stage is an important aspect. And it is believed that I think there is some report that I have. I'll come to that. It's believed that as we switch to other energy sources, move away from crude or fossil fuels, there'll be lesser and lesser plastic, which is something that is a belief, not verified. That's something that we will have to check out. But there is a report that very clearly links plastic production to climate change in all aspects, during production, during its usage, during its recycling, etc. So it's been quantified also. Study shows that plastic production could be nearly 1/3 of the global carbon budget and emits 4 times more greenhouse gases than the airline industry. Plastic production causes so much of pollution. So it's a significant contributor to the climate change. So when you look at it from every other perspective, usage of plastic must be reduced in order to conserve the environment and to have an impact on climate change. And the one last point that is my favorite, that's something that I've been kind of propagating. I want to leave that thought with you. The best way we're all the citizens, we're all power hungry people. Even for waste management, if we want to effectively manage waste, we need power, electric power. For compacting waste, we need power. For setting up sewage treatment plants, we need power. Many of the sewage treatment plants in the city of Chennai are not functioning because the power available for them is intermittent. So that is, and our requirement, the per capita requirement, as well as the industrial requirement for power is going to go up. And there is a solution in the form of nuclear energy, which is clean, which is safe, which is something that is making a huge comeback that solves many of the problems that we face and can be a significant contributor to managing climate change. And I hope our panelist, Anjali Bansal, will talk about that because she has specific interest in that area. So just to conclude, I will say starting at the highest level of abstraction, power generation using non-fossil fuels, which adds to both waste as well as climate change. Alternatives are available that have to be very seriously looked at. Number two, reduce the production of plastics, try and replace plastics by other material. That is being done increasingly. One of the good examples are hospitality industry, how they're replacing the PET bottles, the glass bottles. But the healthcare industry has taken it up as a challenge and looking at all the items that they can replace in a hospital. They are also known for managing their waste effectively, or they're expected to manage the clinical or the sanitary waste in a very effective manner, but they are consciously working towards replacing the plastic. And finally, all the solutions Dr. Prasad Modak talked about are things that all of us should be aware of, conscious of, and propagated so that we as individuals take the responsibility of cleaning the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lakshmi Narayan. A very, very thought-provoking address indeed. And you concluded well by saying that we as individuals should take the responsibility. Another good part of this morning session today, it's a very, very pleasant duty for us to introduce Mr. B Ananth Krishna, an intern at Sundaram Climate Institute, still in school. Yeah. So, ma'am, we want to show the video now, the movie, waste management movie.
So one thing we have done is we have a tested curriculum, which we will be releasing shortly, completely free of cost. We've used this, test this in both the private schools and government schools. Between the classes of 6 and 8, it works well. So students come out empowered on how to manage their waste and understand all their problems. If I can take 5 minutes of your time, we'd like to release a small film that summarizes, it's a 3-part film. We're just releasing the first part now on the problems of waste. So the story of waste, yeah. The audience is 6 to 8 standard school, so please bear accordingly.
I really got one.
That is awful to see those. Priya, they were not so bad last year. What happened this year? Has your neighbor started a mosquito breeding program?
Honestly, the person who invented this fact deserves a Nobel Prize. Shekhar, there is a train running near the house. Last year, they tried to make it podcast. It was concrete, but it did not shut it. Now all the paid kids dumped in it, providing mosquito breeding heaven. In my hospital now, we have run out of beds to admit the dengue patients. That's something you can't do, Shekhar. I'm really, slow. This back blocked by me. That's the person who invented it. He shut up quickly. The master will come in.
Hey, what happened to you two? You look worn out.
We had a lucky escape.
Oh, this is what us foolish humans are floating away at space. This is really and something that's hard. Oh. This is mine. Let go.
I'm not kidding. Oh, stray dogs, mosquitoes, this city is becoming worse and worse.
There is a common thread, Priya. Oh, what is that? Oh, what is fun? It's waste. The waste is causing the mosquito population to swell, providing plenty of room to support the stray dogs, and probably ruining your water supply handle.
What do you mean, see that, uncle? How can you bring food in the water?
Let me explain. You see, Archana, waste is taken from our houses by the corporation to a place called a landfill. This is empty land on which the waste is dumped. Waste comes in all forms: vegetable peels, leftover food, drinks, paper, old batteries, medicines, poisons, clothing scraps, biscuit packets, etc. Liquids inside the waste or rainwater seeping through travels through the waste dump, gathering anything they can dissolve on the way. By the time the liquid reaches the bottom of the waste dump, it's very toxic. It's actually deadly. It reaches the bottom and then slowly seeps into the soil. In some foreign countries, they insist on liners for landfill to prevent this. But here, the toxic liquid contaminates groundwater. Anyone who drinks from that groundwater is at risk, from diarrhea to cancer.
That's awful.
There's more. Waste provides convenient pocket for water to gather. Mosquitoes need very little water to breathe in. Thus, is born our daily problem.
Amma, I saw that Zika has come to India.
You both already saw how waste supports our state of population. True. We barely escaped being bitten.
Thank God. If you had been bitten by a rabid dog, that would have been a serious problem. Oh, India is the world in case of rabies death. 20,000 years and mostly children.
And that's not all. Stop it, Caesar. I've heard enough.
No, Papa, I want to know. What more is there?
Well, waste looks bad, and waste lots of things on our road and our toilets. So when it rains, we have flood. It's down in the house, the house of them. I can see the bird coming to my way. But we can do something about it.
It was a simple movie, but a great message there. I think a lot of students and school children particularly should see this. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to an important part of this day's seminar, let me introduce Mr. B Ananth Krishna, an intern at the Sundaram Climate Institute, still studying in class 12. He's a young enthusiast of climate and sustainability. He's put out an excellent art exhibition, which will be inaugurated shortly. May I have the short AV, please? So we will just have the formal inauguration of the exhibition just in a while, but before that, may I invite Ananth to provide an overview of the exhibition. Ananth.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present here. I remember the first day when I was speaking to waste pickers across Madurai. I met a woman who had been thrown out of her hometown, and she had no form of identity, as she did not even have an Aadhaar card. She'd been doing this work for years. I also noticed her hand. It was wrinkled, a pale sandal color, scratched, and I also saw what appeared to be traces of snuff on it. She later told us that she took snuff and a variety of other drugs to cope with the smell of her workplace. The story that she told me hit me. How many and how badly are such people affected across Madurai? And if so, why do they never get any attention? Over the next few days, we started talking to more and more of these waste pickers. An old man living by the side of the street who used to be collecting scraps of wealth so that he could gain money. Another old woman similar to the first. We also spoke to an entire community of these waste pickers living at the edge of a village on the outskirts of Madurai. They had been ruthlessly isolated by society and were condemned to a work where they would be picking and sieving through waste at Madurai's main landfill. No one was spared. Women, men, and their health wasn't very good either. All had existing conditions, lung problems, diabetes, high blood pressure, body pains, the lot. Tragically, one of them was even pregnant. Yeah. And there was another whose finger had to be amputated because she had a deadly infection on her finger. It had to be cut off. There was also the widespread use of alcohol and drugs among them to cope with their daily work. And for all that they're struggling every day, they're only earning between 100 and 350 rupees a day. More of them are towards the 100 end, which is tragic. Their story is one that is mostly unheard. It's a story of struggle, injustice, hardship, oppression. And I believe it is important that we get to know about this and help them so that they can not only work with dignity and also work in a safe environment. Did you know most recycling in India, at least, comes courtesy of these waste pickers? And yet they never receive the attention or praise that they deserve and remain invisible to most. This is what I hope to address with the collection. It's going to be titled, Can You See Me? And it aims to portray the realities of these waste pickers across Madurai. So I'm going to give you a few examples of paintings that I've made. One of them is titled The Hand. It's inspired by the first waste picker lady that I saw, and it aims to portray the kind of suffering that she, along and many others like her, go through on a daily basis. There's another, Can You See Me, which has been named after the title. It's a test for your eyes. Do you see the sunrise? Or do you see the waste pickers toiling away in the background? Of course, now that I've said it, it's most likely you'll see the waste pickers, but anyway. And then the last one, my last example, The Fall. It shows a young boy for whom the wasteland is a playground. He's somersaulting in the air for fun, but as he's doing so, he's plunging into the abyss that is the landfall. I'll let you discover more of the paintings in some time. these waste pickers, they deserve voice. And I genuinely hope that this collection does that. Thank you.
We'll be formally inaugurating the exhibition now. May I invite Ms. Nalini, Shekhar and Ms. Anjali Bansal. Nalini Shekhar is the Executive Director of Harisul Dala Innovations and an Ashoka Fellow. Ms. Anjali Bansal is the founding partner of Amana Climate and Sustainability Fund, investing in innovative startups for climate solutions. May I request them and also the other dignitaries on the dais to inaugurate the art exhibition, which we will all be witnessing outside just during the tea break. Ladies and gentlemen, let's encourage the youngster with a big round of applause.
Ladies and gentlemen, the picture is on display. The young man is Mridula Ramesh's son, and whatever, what a good thing. You know, the big round of applause. Yeah, right.
Time for us to honor the dignitaries on the dais before we break for tea. May I now request Mr. Mahalingam is already on stage, Group Captain Vijay Kumar. Ms. Mridula Ramesh also to step forward and present a token of her appreciation for all the dignitaries.
You want to say something?
Dr. Prasad Modak. Would you like to say something now?
Want to say something? Yeah, please come.
Please.
Thank you for this great opportunity, Nidula and Anand. So he was just talking about the situation of waste pickers, and I really want to talk a little bit about waste pickers, what they do, right? People go on the street, pick up recyclable waste, walk 4 to 5 kilometers, bend 1,000 times, pick up what you and me throw as waste and make it into a tradable commodity. It's a huge production. And also they are entrepreneurs. Can you imagine one waste picker who picks up anywhere between 60 and 70 kilos, or another waste picker who goes on a cycle and pick up about 200 to 250 kilos, create anywhere between 22 to 24 jobs in the recycling sector. So they are entrepreneurs. I want to look at the positive thing. I also want to talk about here how they reduce the cost of collection and transportation for a city. We had done a study in Bangalore in 2011 where 15,000 waste pickers contributed in collection and transportation. It was saving 84 crore rupees for solid waste management system of Bangalore city. That is their economic contribution. There's a huge reduction in CHG gas because they are not letting it go into the landfill or create more virgin material to recycle and produce. So the thing is, they have so much economic contribution and also environmental contribution, but they are not recognized, as Anand rightly said. So we made a change. We wanted to bring in change in how people look at waste pickers. So in Bangalore, when we Hasiru Dala, the non-profit that I work with, Hasiru Dala Innovation is the for-profit, but I work with a non-profit, where we trained the waste pickers and we were very keen they should have their own agency so they represent themselves. That's what we did. Today we have, we worked with the local government, showed how much their contribution is. We call them silent environmentalists and robust entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are not the only one who come with a tie, but many others are also entrepreneurs. With that, we were able to integrate waste pickers into the solid waste management system of the city And as you were talking, sir, Dr. Prasad, we made the whole change in the collection system itself. There's one vehicle which goes for dry waste collection only, that is done by waste pickers. There's another one which goes for the wet waste and sanitary waste. We are the first city to collect sanitary waste separately. That is again, Hasrudala really work hard looking at the condition of working of the workers, where sanitary pad they had to open and see what it is before throwing it out. So when the system change also happens, I am telling you, waste management is really not a huge rocket science. What we need is a governance and political will. I can tell you in Bangalore, there was so much of activism because governance failed. So the citizen took over solid waste management. We brought in a lot of changes, including the one I said on the contract system. Today, we were just staying in Taj Hotel here. Every table had a water bottle, plastic water bottle. You will never see that in Bangalore. No Taj Hotel has, not only Taj, every 7-star and 5-star hotel don't serve in plastic bottle. No wet waste goes out of their premises. It's managed within. We're the first city where McDonald's did not give straw in 2012. We were the first city where it is all citizens' effort by bring your own cutlery. BYOC was a huge campaign we did, and we asked people to go with a glass to have tea or coffee. There was one tea chain, we took it up and said, we will reduce 5 rupees from your bill if you bring your own cutlery. In a village, small village, what we have done, all this we are doing with the waste pickers and training them to become zero waste, champions. In one of the village near Mysore, we took it up. This is whole village panchayat, which has 7 villages. And every day, every alternate day, they had huge clogging problem in the drains. We just looked at it. It was a sanitary napkin and diapers which was getting into the clogging system. So we had a campaign where we said, women will come forward not to use single-use sanitary pads. And we introduced different kinds of material or the products that women can use, the cups, and for children, we started using the cloth pad. Cloth pad also, which looked very pretty, so they can put it out and dry it. Nobody knows it's a sanitary pad. Today, there is 96% conversion in a village. And all our dry waste collection center doesn't get any used sanitary pad in it. So it's so much better for workers to work in there. And I'm telling you, political will is very important. We had the president who is a Congress, and we had MLA who is JDS. We had MP who was a BJP. Everybody worked very well because they knew this will bring in change to the city, to the village. When we looked at all the medical shops which were selling sanitary pad, suddenly has started selling cups, and also they have started, selling the cloth diaper and cloth sanitary pads. So change can happen. If village can do a change with very little access to information, cities can change. We have done that in city also, in Bangalore, in some of the wards where again, citizens have to be very engaged. That's why I'm talking about citizens so much, because so many of you are here. And there we have, even every 90 houses, we have a composting bin. We just compost right there. Nothing can go out of, wet waste can go out of a street. So if we are able to do that much, how many more jobs can you create? One of the, centers, we had an exhibition. One of the minister came and asked the waste picker, who are you? What do you do? She started explaining how to do compost. He said, no, I want to know what you are. She just thought for a minute and she said, I'm a compost doctor. When people fail to do composting properly, I go and fix in their houses. So this is the amazing skill and knowledge waste pickers have, we have to really leverage their skills and knowledge, include them in our solid waste management and work. Today, we have more than 82 entrepreneurs giving jobs to little over 1,000 jobs, and all of them are filing their income tax return. 2 of them are also paying income tax. And we have women entrepreneurs. Last year, Bangalore has this Social Entrepreneur Award, and Indumati, one of the waste picker, got Social Entrepreneur of the Year. So this is what we want to see. Now, internationally, plastic treaty is happening, global plastic treaty is happening, where waste pickers from different part of the world have gone and negotiated that waste pickers should be included in the just transition of the treaty, which all member states have signed on. But are we in a perfect thing? No. We know that informal recycling is not the best thing that is happening, but it is something is happening. So investment in the informal sector for a better technology and safer standard of recycling is absolutely something that Prasad sir, you said, and we also believe in it. So investment in people is also as important as investing in the technology. So let's all work towards, when we talk about solid waste management, think of waste pickers, think positively about their skill and knowledge. I've been working with them for 25 years, and I don't know how to sort the way they sort. They exactly know how to sort a dry waste, that in the dry waste collection, they sort it into 30 to 35 categories, which I don't know how to do it, even after knowing, working with them so well. So let's leverage that skill. And I think, the study has also calculated how many jobs we can create. So think about solid waste management, not to replace waste pickers. First of all, the new, especially new entrepreneurs who are coming, immediately they say, okay, let's, waste picker situation is very bad, let's do something. And they want waste picker to work because they are the only one who puts their waste in this, in their hands in the waste. So you want them as workers. I'm telling them, you don't have to have just as workers. 9 to 5 jobs, and with ESI and PF doesn't cut it. They need much more. For example, Indore, you were just talking about, Indore waste pickers who are introduced into the formal system, who get ESI and PF, they came to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan with us. They talked about how they are getting only 6,500 rupees because the minimum wage is 6,500. When she was an entrepreneur, she was earning 12,000. So when entrepreneurs are working, please look at it. We often say, no, let them pay directly to us. We will give you money. You don't have to go to the scrap dealer or the next level of people, aggregators. But I'll tell you, this whole system is dependent on each other economically and socially. So don't disturb them. Invest in the whole chain so that you get better material for your production. So with that, I would like to say, look at waste picker next time when you see them. Don't look at them as poor, putting their hands in the dirty place, but look at them as skilled workers and knowledge partners for your solid waste management. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Been enlightening for us. May I request the dignitaries to step forward. As Mr. Vidula Ramesh, Mr. Mahalingam, would you please present a memento as a token of our appreciation for all the dignitaries who made it today here. Dr. Prasad Modak, Ms. Lakshmi Narayanan, Ms. Nalini Shekhar, Ms. Anjali Bansal, and Mr. Ananth Krishna also. Ananth, please come on. May I request Ms. Lakshmi Narayan and Ms. Shivkumar, who are our committee members, also to join us on the stage, please. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, they deserve a big round of applause. Yes, we are going to have a tea break now. Let's be a little more energetic. Thank you for that. So, shortly after this, we'll break for tea, and as you are aware, the exhibition is also laid out there, a few artifacts of Mr. Ananth. So please make use of the time to have your tea as well as have a look at those artifacts there. Good, thank you. And we break for tea now. We should be back here about 11:15. Okay, 5 minutes extra because we're running behind time. 11:20, we'll start the panel discussion. Please be back on time.
the report கொடுக்கறடா.
Lakshmi.
Dr. Vasudevan, this is Group Captain Venkatraman from MMA. Am I audible? Sir, can you unmute yourself? I think you are muted. Yeah.
Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Sir, I
Are
am
you,
audible, I suppose, but we are not able to get your voice. 1 second.
are you able to, now remove the mute? Are you able to hear me?
I'm still not getting your voice. Sir. 1 second, I'll have it checked.
Why, sir? Check. Are you able to hear now? Bache.
Dr. Vasudevan, can we have a quick check again?
I'm checking actually.
I'm still not able to get you, sir. 1 second.
Are you able to hear now? Hello? 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 I am able to hear you. Are you able to hear? I am able to. Hello?
Yes, sir. Now we are able to hear you, sir. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. How are you?
Right. So we are having a tea break, sir. We will be back very soon.
Please,
Yeah. I
Yes,
will,
thank
now
you.
that audio and video both are fine,
Wonderful.
I think we will be able to, connect with you the moment panelists are back here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. I'm waiting, anxiously waiting for the great moment.
Thank you, sir. Right, sir. exhibition. Please settle down. Dr. Vasudevan, am I audible from here now?
Hello? Am I audible to you?
Yes, you are audible.
you.
Dr. Vasudevan, would you like to present your PPT from there?
Yes, please.
Okay, can you just check it out?
Are you able to see my slide there?
Just a
Hello.
minute, sir. Yeah, we are able to see it now.
Thank you.
Yes, we are able to see your slide deck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can close it now, sir. We have checked everything, audio, video, everything is available. We are about to start the panel discussion very soon. I'll just call you back, sir.
Please.
You can switch off your slides now. Stop your slide share.
I'm keeping ready. If
Yeah.
the time will give yes.
Dr. Vasudevan, you can possibly stop sharing your slide deck now.
Can I start?
You could stop sharing your slide deck, sir.
Our slide has already slide there. Is there?
Yeah, slides are visible. Slides
Yes,
are
sir.
visible.
Yes, I can. May I start now or everything ready?
No, not yet, sir. You can stop share the slide. I will call you.
Please.
Sir, you can remove the slides now.
Sandar.
But yeah, okay. Okay, sir. We operated from here, not to worry. Yeah, sure.
You can remove the channel, try to run it.
Professor Vasudevan, good morning. You able to hear me? This is Group Captain Vijay Kumaria. Hello, Professor Rajkumar. Hello, Professor Vasudevan. Good to see you. Yeah, we are commencing the program, maybe a few more movement. Thank you for joining online.
Thank you.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please settle down after the tea break now. We are going to commence the panel discussion very soon. Let me call to the dais, the panelists, the distinguished panelists. We have a very, very interesting discussion on this topic called Innovative Pathways to a Zero Waste India, Insights from Madurai and Beyond. May I request all the panelists to take their place on the dais, led by Dr. Ashwin Mahalingam, Faculty Department of Civil Engineering, will also be moderating the discussion. And we have Mr. Shekhar, Prabhakar, we have Mr. Som Narayan and Mr. Sushil Vaishnav, along with Dr. R. Vasudevan, Professor of Tyagaraja College of Engineering, Madurai, who's joined us online. Thank you, Professor, for taking your time off and joining us today. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, we just had a cup of tea. Why not a round of applause to this wonderful panel of audience that we have here? That's great. So I request all of you to keep your mobile phones on silent mode. I can see some of you speaking on mobile. Please, let's keep the mobiles inside for a while. I'll quickly introduce the panelists and then hand over the discussion to Professor Ashwin Mahalingam. Dr. Ashwin Mahalingam is a faculty member at IIT Madras, the Department of Civil Engineering, specializes in building technology and construction management, holds a BTech from IIT Madras and an MS from Stanford, PhD in infrastructure project management from Stanford. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Professor, for joining us today. Hey, thank you. Mr. Shekhar Prabhakar, Managing Director, Harisudala Innovations, with 22 years of experience in IT and consulting across global markets. Alumnus of IIT Madras and IIM Kolkata, Shekhar leads the organization's strategy and growth, impacting thousands of lives and the environment. Thank you so much, Shekhar, for joining us. Mr. Som Narayan is CEO of Carbon Masters, has been dedicated to climate change solutions for over 6 years. With a master's in carbon management from the University of Edinburgh, he's been working on low carbon technologies and policies. Thank you so much, Mr. Som, for joining us this morning. Come on, the clapping is not louder where I must say. Thank you. Mr. Sushil Vaishnav, founder and CEO of KNP Arises Green Energy Private Limited, brings with him 15 years of experience in procurement, supply chain management, logistics across UAE and India. He's recognized for his ability to lead cross-functional teams and optimize business process. Thank you so much, Mr. Sushil Vaishnav, for joining us. And this is my pleasant duty to introduce Padma Shri, Dr. R. Vasudevan, who has joined us online. Professor at Tyagaraja College of Engineering. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. Renowned for developing an innovative method to reuse plastic waste in road construction, which has been widely implemented across rural India. Known as the Plastic Man of India, he was awarded the Padma Shri in 2018 for his contribution to waste management. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have an excellent panel. Now I'll invite Professor Ashwin Mahalingam to take the panel discussion forward.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thanks to MMA for inviting us to be a part of this panel. And thank you all for coming out on a Saturday morning. What I'm going to do is just set the context for this panel in a couple of minutes. And then the panel will take place in 3 rounds. First round, I'll ask all the panelists to tell us a little bit more about what they're doing in the area of managing waste. And so that will be sort of an open round. Each of them will have brief presentations that they will make so that you'll get to know them a little better. And then we'll have a couple of rounds where we'll talk a little bit about the challenges and opportunities and actually implementing solutions in this space. And then we'll open it out to questions. I was told there are about, there's 200 odd people here, but 800 odd people online as well. So we'll have a mixture of questions from the audience as well as people online. And roughly, I think we'll try to wind up by about 12:40. So there's enough time for events that succeed this. So just to set the context, how many of you have heard of an economist by the name of Adam Smith? How many have heard of Adam Smith? Everyone's heard of Adam Smith, right? Because even if you've not read his book, it was there in some textbook at some point, okay? So Adam Smith wrote this book, Wealth of Nations, roughly about 400 odd years ago. It is by no means the first treatise ever written on economics. I think economics predates him by several centuries. I think you can even in India go back to Chanakya's Arthashastra and so on for various principles of economics, right? So I'm not trying to say that that was one of the first books on economics, but it was something that started, I would say modern economic thinking. And one of the things that, he spoke about, and others have spoken about it before and since, but one of the things that spoke about was this notion of supply and demand, right? So anyone who's read a little bit about economics has sort of read about supply and demand. And perhaps slightly different words for that are production and consumption, right? So production is supply, consumption is sort of demand. So what we seem to have done over the last several centuries is, as a society, we've gotten more efficient at both production and consumption, right? So when I say more efficient at production, in some cases we produce less, but in many cases we've scaled up to produce more, right? So there's a lot of production, and therefore, and commensurate to that, there's a lot of consumption. And when your production and consumption rise, the overall economic growth seems to be a lot healthier, and your GDP and all of that represents that. And when you look at documents like our budget that comes out every year, you'll find a portion of the budget that talks about ways in which we can improve production. So all kinds of strategies that help improve production, but also ways in which we can improve consumption. So, one of the reasons for banks lowering interest rates is to, again, incentivize consumption that therefore incentivizes production. So we've been sort of in this production and consumption loop. Now, I'm an engineer, and many, many years ago, we were taught about something called the principle of mass balance, or conservation of mass, which says that at the end of the day, whatever you produce gets consumed but never disappears, right? So it's still there in some sort of way, shape, or form. It doesn't sort of just go away. And so this is sort of a problem which I think we've not, at least in the early economic thinking, never really addressed. We produce, we consume, but what happens after we consume what we consumed was never really talked about. And over a period of time, I think we've sort of produced and consumed so much that this has now become a clear and present danger across segments, right? Industrially, we've got to figure out how we take care of what we now call waste, which is what is left behind after we produce and consume. We've talked about, the earlier panel talked about what happens in sort of the urban setting, and there are several other settings in which we sort of produce, consume, but don't know what to do about this. So we started with not really thinking about it at all. Over the last few decades, we've started to think about it. We've started to talk about it, right? But I think it's only now that we're really trying to do something serious about it. And what we have today is a series of panelists who've gone beyond just talking about production, consumption, and what happens after to actually doing something about this, right? And so what we want to focus on today is not just the theory of production, consumption, and recycling, reuse, and all of that. By the way, there's a lot of thought. I come from academia. There's a lot of academic thought being put into the 3 R's, as we call it: reduce, reuse, recycle. But also there are lots of ways in which people are trying to what we call valorize, which means take waste projects and add value to other processes, upcycle, as people call it. So there are lots of things that are going on in this space. But there's thought, there's R&D, and there's actual action that's being represented on this panel. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask each of my panelists, and I'll go in the order in which they were introduced, to talk a little bit about what they're doing. And then we'll start getting a little bit deeper into how they're able to do it, how can we scale this, and things like that. So with that brief introduction to what we're going to do, I'd like to first start with Shekhar, Mr. Shekhar Prabhakar. Shekhar, I believe you have a presentation. Would you like to go ahead, please?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Mridula and MMA Mahalingam for the opportunity to be here. So, if you're wondering about the tongue twister of a name, Hasuru in Kannada means the green force, a name chosen by waste pickers, the community that we are chosen to work with. We're 2 organizations. Nalini, who spoke earlier, runs the not-for-profit, which focuses on social justice for waste pickers, while I run the for-profit Hasurdala Innovations Private Limited, which focuses on economic justice for waste pickers. And we feel that social justice plus economic justice is what gives an opportunity for waste pickers and informal waste workers to aspire to a quantum change in their quality of life within their lifetimes if given the right opportunity. And that is what we are about. We call it inclusive circularity, a term that we have actually registered as a trademark. And I'll talk a little bit about what we mean by that. So what do we mean by, giving opportunities to waste pickers? So I'm going to take the example of Lothfur, a waste picker who became an entrepreneur with us 7 years ago, unpredictable income, police and citizen harassment, a tarpaulin shack as a home. He became part of Hasrudala Innovations' business model of providing waste management services to bulk generators of waste, which is like apartment complexes and so on, or corporate campuses. Today, Lothfur lives in a Pakka house, has a stable income, and has filed his income tax returns for the last 6 years and now has started paying GST. He manages an MRF and employs 30 other workers. He owns 4 trucks and a 2-wheeler now, which he is very proud of because he actually got a loan from the bank to buy the scooter, right? So he's become credit worthy. So that is what we are trying to do at Hasrudala Innovations, provide access to markets that they cannot access by themselves, access to clean waste from source, and access to business models that provide either an entrepreneurship or a predictable livelihood opportunity for themselves. And that is all we are about, really. And we have experimented with a lot. Right now, we have 3 business models that seem to be working. And I'll talk a little bit about those. Our vision is very simple, a world with no waste and no waste pickers. And our mission is to make inclusive circularity a reality in the global south. And for us, we define inclusive circularity as the deliberate and planned inclusion of waste pickers and informal waste workers as an integral part of the evolving circular economy value chain as green-collar professionals and entrepreneurs. And our first business line is what we call building circular communities. In Bangalore, there's a rule that bulk waste generators will not be serviced by the municipal corporation, but have to manage waste on their own through empaneled private service providers like us. So we provide those services. And we, Mridula talked about how to pay for waste management. So our model is we contract with the bulk waste generator. They pay a service fee on a monthly basis. And then we actually hire a waste picker who becomes our entrepreneur. We buy him a truck, which he pays for over 5 years. So he creates an asset for himself in 4 years. He does the primary collection. We as a company take care of the wet waste and the rejects. And he takes the dry waste, sorts it, and sends it into the recycling supply chain. So he has 2 sources of income. One is a fixed income from us for the primary collection. And the second is this from the sale of recyclables. So we might be the only waste management company in the world which doesn't take revenue from dry waste. So each entrepreneur generates about 7 to 9 jobs. So today we have 22 waste picker entrepreneurs, and they have in turn generated about 250 jobs. I'm not going to talk much about this. We have a mobile application which is very intuitive for the waste picker to use. So everything is intuitive, and they are able to use it, though they're illiterate. So as a joint venture with Carbon Masters, we have set up the first private, completely private, no government participation at all, organic waste to compressed biogas, which replaces LPG cylinders and also makes organic manure, both liquid and solid, which replaces chemical fertilizers, right? So we are only waste management company in India, which actually does from collection right up to making a product out of the organic wet waste, right? So that is this second business. The third is plastic circularity. Now, this is pure aggregation of plastic waste. We buy it from our waste picker entrepreneurs, the dry waste collection centers, and the general market. And finely segregate it into finer categories so that the recycler can use it. But what we have done differently is we are the only waste management, multi-stream waste management company in the world, which is fair trade guaranteed by the World Fair Trade Organization. So we went to brands like Unilever. For the first time in the world, if you look at that label on the Sunsilk oil blends, which was just launched about a few weeks ago, it actually says Hasnudala Innovations, a WFTO guaranteed fair trade enterprise, supplied the post-consumer plastic waste that went into this bottle, right? It's the first time in the world that any company, any global brand has put a supplier's name on their packaging, right? Now, this is what we call circularity, right? Where the waste that we have collected goes back into a bottle. And that is it. Now, one of the things that Dr. Modak said, while all this is fine, this will hardly move the needle, and I agree with him. So we are trying to actually get brands, just like they design in functionalities and, and the thing, can you design out waste? Can you design in recyclability? Can you design in remanufacturability, but design out waste? And that is what we're trying to get organizational. Even H&M, all the buttons in their apparel for the last 5 seasons manufactured in India have recycled plastic, again sourced exclusively from us. They call it social buttons. And yeah, we also pioneer something called event waste management services, where we help hosts of events. It could be a wedding, it could be IPL, we do all the 4 marathons in the country, we do Sunburn Music Festival, Echoes of Earth Music Festival. We did about 400 events last year. The good part of this thing is that waste pickers get hired for the day, get higher than market wages, and get to go to occasions and meet with people that otherwise they wouldn't. So they actually enjoy themselves doing this, right? Today we have waste pickers who dress up in the saris that we have given them, put on lipstick, and love talking about what they are doing at that event. And so it's supplemental income to their waste picking income. So if you see our models, we either give them an entrepreneurship opportunity, a livelihood opportunity with us, for example, in the aggregation center, or a supplemental income opportunity. So because different people need different solutions. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur, not everyone can be a 9-to-5 person. So how do we give different models for different people? This is just some of the impact. For example, anyone who's come into our system has increased their household income by 122%. And more predictable, their purchased assets after becoming part of our system. This is some of the people involved. And so thank you. So inclusive circularity is what we are all about. And as Nalini said, let's look at ways how we can include and integrate waste pickers into any new business model, any new model of solid waste management that we think of, rather than disintermediate them from the value chain. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Shekhar. I think we'll talk a little bit more about this at the Q&A, but I think it would be an oversimplification to say you're just empowering waste pickers. I think what you're also doing is creating supply chains for them. And I think we'll have to talk about both of those, because this is more than just running an incubator service for waste pickers, right? So we'll get to that in a little bit. But you did allude to your partnership with Carbon Masters, and we have Som from Carbon Masters here. So Som, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Carbon Masters
does? In fact, I also have a presentation, just a short one. In fact, Shekhar is creating supply chain for us also. Otherwise we wouldn't have been able to set up a CBG plant. I'll cover more.
Right.
Very warm good morning to everyone. Thanks to Mozilla MMA for giving us this opportunity. So I represent Carbon Masters today. I'm one of the co-founders. Me and Kevin set it up. I'm an environmental engineer. Post that, I went to Edinburgh to do my master's in carbon management, and I was really taken aback by the man-made climate crisis that we're all supposed to address, and thought really that, this is something that I would really like to dedicate the next 10 years. It looks like it needs more than that now. But the way I started off was, we started out as a consulting firm, initially to measure, manage, and reduce carbon emissions. That's how the name Carbon Masters came. And then I thought, after the first 3 years of stint in UK, that I come back to Bangalore, where my hometown, and start working there. And because if India and China don't solve for it, then we'll not really be able to address the total emissions. And then in 2012, tried the same thing for the next 2-3 years, and realized that Indians won't pay for consultancy. Information is really like available through Google, etc. They would want something real, more of solutions. And if you were a big four, you would get a consulting assignment. So consulting is not really the model, but most of the feedback we did through the pro bono work, we were understanding that companies want real solutions. And being from Bangalore, I was very fortunate to have bumped into Nalini many number of times at the BBMP office, the local municipality office. And we had this headlines that those days that, and even now that we've not solved completely, that the garden city is now the garbage city. So that got me interested in the whole topic about why, what, and then the methane coming out of these landfills, where 90% of the waste goes. It was another major point in connecting the dots, that this methane had to be captured because it has the highest global warming potential factor of 32 now. And it's even faster in a 20-year span. So if you have to address climate, you have to cut on methane emissions. And then joining the dots, we could suddenly see that methane from landfill emissions, and India as a country, we are heavily dependent on import of fossil fuels. And then if you, nowadays, even Sadhguru is doing a campaign about how soil and water, soil health especially. And when we started looking the facts that, India's soil organic carbon is less than 0.5%. So all these three, if you connect all the dots, you could solve it through one problem, the circular economy solution. And that's what got us going. We today have about 60 people doing 10 plus crores. This year, we're targeting about 20 crores in top line, executing projects, as well as selling gas and fertilizer under our brand name Carbon Lights. And the model is very straightforward. India has had more than 80-100 years of biogas. Like yoga, India also gave biogas to the world, except that Germany, countries like Germany have now about 9,000, 10,000 plants, and India has still got only about 50-60 plants, right? The government's current mandate is to go 5,000 plants in the next 3-4 years. A lot of policy interventions have come, which is what's helping. Plus, companies like Hasirudala Innovations have created the supply chain that's very important in the whole mix. So when you add everything up, companies like us can then create business models, and I'll share about how we've gone about it. So it's waste generation, that's inevitable. It does happen at least 1 kg per household. Then the collection happens, and then the production of biogas and organic fertilizer, and then gets distributed. We have more than about 50 customers now, replacing LPG completely. And then it replaces, for cooking LPG, it can replace any fossil fuel. Even we run trucks on it. We have about 8 of our own trucks doing more than about 200 kilometers a day, right? To bring the feedstock, or to also to deliver the gas to the customer. So it's a complete chain of events that can be going carbon neutral. And in the end-to-end process, whatever waste comes into our factories, there is no residual. That means if 1,000 kgs of wet waste comes in, it either gets converted to organic fertilizer, or it gets converted into compressed biomethane gas that goes and replaces fossil fuel. And therefore, there's a complete circularity, and therefore no wastage coming out of these facilities. Now, how we've gone about is, we have 3 divisions. One, we design and build facilities. The second aspect is, once these facilities are built, we then brand it and sell it as Carbon Lights, which is both the gas and the fertilizer. And in the middle, what you see is how we secure the feedstock partner. So we work with waste management companies in local regions. The first region that we have secured here is in Bangalore. We've done one more project in Telangana where we worked with municipality doing the same role, but on a long-term basis. These projects are all 20 years plus. So you essentially set up a joint venture, set the ball rolling with them agreeing to provide the feedstock. They're part of the business model, and then you convert into two products and we have a complete transparent solution. This is the project in Siddipet, which was an existing landfill, which we have cleared up. It was 17 acres of landfill. We've just converted that across 2 acres of land. We've inaugurated, and the entire city's waste of 2 lakh population generates about 30 tons per day, comes into this facility, and there's zero wastage happening on a day-to-day basis because everything gets processed either into fertilizer or gas. And the municipality also generates a portion of the EBITDA because they've invested in the capital. This is our Bangalore project, set up with Hasiru between a joint venture between Hasiru Innovations and Carbon Masters. And as Shekhar said, this is India's first, in fact, I would say world's first, because most of the places where these projects are happening, either the government gives land or they provide the waste. Here, 2 private companies, both local to Bangalore, have come together, gotten a land leased across for next 20 years, built the plant and processing 40,000 households of waste on a daily basis, right? And gets converted to 2 climate-friendly products, again sold within the 30-40 kilometers radius from the plant to restaurants who are using LPG. And within the 10 kilometers of the plant, the farmers are using organic fertilizer. So it's a complete, farmers are feeding Bangalore, we are feeding back the farmers around the city. And then the gas consumption is also done by Bangalore restaurants. I'll just pause here for a bit. I wanted to show a small 40-second video. Thanks. And the first time I set up the plant, I went and set it up near a village, and we got shut down. And it was almost a 3-year setback. Nobody wants waste in their backyard. They don't want it at their home, fine, but not even in their backyard or within the 3-4 kilometers vicinity. And it was real estate lobby that the prices of this will go down. The neighboring sites will go down, and that was the pure contention of their protests. We had to stop that plant for nearly close to about 9-10 months, and then we agreed, working with the community, whatever we've done, we restarted that plant, but it took about a year. We understood that how location of these projects are so important. This one, we've gone into an industrial area so that we behave and operate like an industry. And thanks to several of them here who've also given us a lot of advice. And in fact, in Tamil Nadu, we have an operations in Namakkal. And that's another model that we've created where the assets are financed by angels within Tamil Nadu. and that assets get repaid back as a recurring revenue as part of the recurring returns for them. And we are operating out of Salem and Namakkal. So we have now expanded to Tamil Nadu, Siddipet, which is near Hyderabad, and Bangalore. And so these are the two products that we create out of those. Both has extremely good applications for India specifically. We have currently 4 projects. We're adding 2 more. The plan is that India requires about, just from the solid waste management space, that is, we are talking about organic fraction of MSW, we require about 1,000 to 1,500 plants. So another 1,500 entrepreneurs like me in their local regions can be developed. And that's our vision, to create a franchise model, because this requires foot on the ground, local people to get involved, and then the supply chains have to be local. That's our long-term thinking as we go forward developing this. And very importantly, for every 100 tons, which is not a lot, 100,000 kgs a day, which will be generated by 100,000 households, to be simply put, it will, first of all, divert about 36,500 tons of waste and create good employment in at least about 50 people per plant. This is just some of the recognitions that we've got. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the other discussion.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks, Som. Sorry, I had to rush you a little bit, but we want to get to the discussion. But I think we can again see a pattern developing here. Again, this is not just purely a technology development company. They're also trying to, through joint ventures with others and so on, try to sort of streamline the entire supply chain so that what you produce actually has some benefit to environment, society. So thank you very much. We'll move on. I'll now ask Sushil to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing, particularly in the sustainable fuel space. Yeah, I was going to the order in which they were introduced. So, yeah.
So I'm utilizing the time by the time we're setting it up. I'm Sushil, Vaishnav, CEO and co-founder of KEP Arrival Green Energy. Eco is our brand. What are we trying to do? We are trying to solve the problem of fat. Any fat is a dense form of energy. And currently we see a lot of fat which has so much of energy is not being utilized. Hello. Yeah, thank you. So we are trying to create a solution where every fat can be converted into energy. And that's what being told by the earlier panel. We are energy hungry. We need a lot of energy, right? And listening to the first panel, I was like really thrilled, little bit, I would say, a little down also, because such a big problems, such a much of the life, this much is gone, this much is left, and the problem is still too big. But every problem has some solutions. Everybody explained it. So let's try our bit. So since every problem has a solution, that's a little bit of excitement. My part is to ensure at least what I'm doing justice to it. We are trying to create a solution out of your food plate, just to, wake up call for everyone. If I ask everyone, you all must have had some samosas outside. You must be doing some cooking inside your home. May I ask how many times you can use oil for the frying? Awesome. You are good clients, I would say. Anyone else? Twice. Oh, no. You must. No. A lot of studies which helps your bodybuilding is also required, your lot of fat. So that's an integral part of your complete diet. Okay. For the, I would just say for the household, because we don't have enough long prolonged cooking. It doesn't stay more than 15 to 20 minutes, our entire full oil pan, more than 15 minutes. So we can use it for maximum of 3 times. Ideally, it should be 2 times. 1 time is great. You go to the very good, amazing executive chefs, they use it for once. That's true. But on an average, just for your ballpark figure, you can use it for 2 times. Last fry, you can just use it for any curry preparation. Do not fry it again. Because what happens, what is this oil? What is the fat? Fat is the long chain. Once you boil it or once you cook it for the long period of time, it breaks it. So many polar components, which is highly polarized, they go and impact your arteries. And then we have so many diseases across our entire, food chain. 60% of the oil currently, which is being, even somebody dispose it off, is going back into the food chain. After this, I'll be a little worried. You will be able to eat samosas outside or not, but it's my duty. What happened? You go to any good restaurant, you go to any big hotel, because executive chef wanted to serve the great quality food to their customers, they will dispose it off. But there is an amazing supply chain which is already established. The nearby scrap vendor, nearby kabadi wala, or street food vendor, he will come, he will buy. You don't know what you have cooked into it, whether it's a fish, mutton, puri, pani puri, you don't know. But once you go back and then on the street food, because let's say today I came to Chennai from Gurgaon, I want to taste the street food, I'll go and eat, at least try once. What they do, they keep cooking it until it become a black, dark, viscous material. And then what they will do with the black, dark, viscous material? Samosa masala, once you add into it, this black, dark, viscous, it gives a great taste. It enhances the taste. You use the different momos, you eat momos, right? These momos are having a different colorful chutneys. None of the Chinese restaurants throw their oil because it's tasty, it's healthy. Not healthy, it's tasty. So sorry for scaring, but it is just wanted to create some sort of, it is important and it is dangerous. There are so many diseases, heart attack, cancers. We talk about so much of LDL, HDL, and cholesterol and all on the packed food. What about the loose food, which doesn't have any packaging? So there is need to be done, and we are trying to solve that piece of problem. You just throw into water, single liter can actually pollute 20,000 liters of water. That's not a solution. You can't just throw into soil. It is going to damage your soil conditions also. What are we trying to do? We are creating a solution where this oil, just now I had one of the invitee was there, he was talking to me and he has just thrown a very good, I would say, one-liner. He said, now we can sense aeroplane and understand whether this aeroplane is running from the fish fried oil or the burger fried oil. So yeah, that's what we are trying to do. We can convert this into sustainable aviation fuel. As a company, Shell is one of the largest energy company. They hold 5% equity in our company, so they are also helping us out. This is our small model, because what we are trying to do is, solution is available, problem is also existing. The biggest problem, I would say, in the waste is the distribution. We don't know how to collect. 50 kg of the oil on the 3rd floor of some mall. None of the logistics company can come and touch it. Even whatever you pay them, they will not touch it because it's difficult. Once you touch it, the entire consignment, if it spills over, your entire consignment on the risk. So that is the reason, that solution we are trying to build up, having a mobile application, having a collection systems, treatments, etc. So that's the solution we are building. So far, 2,500 restaurants we touch on every month. This our mobile application snapshot. This is how it works. It's exactly works like any Ola Uber apps works. You place the request, a vehicle will come, they will collect, they will give a lot of certification, a lot of compliances, informations, etc. We do provide a lot of training to the restaurant and households and the schools. We run the programs in the school because they are the one who will be going back. Because I really like that Mridula ma'am has released that video. That's amazing. If kids are aware, honestly, things can change a lot. Not now, 5 years down the line, but this is absolutely required. And that's what also we are trying to do. After 5 years, at least these kids will be aware this oil is not to be thrown out. These are some snapshot of our facilities. The small plant. We are also IACC certified company, which ensures entire traceability is there for the whatever we are trying to do. There are some of the USPs we have. So far, 15 million kg of CO2 emissions we've saved from the environment. 6 million kg oil we also saved from the environment. These are some of the awards and recognitions. We are also winner of the Swachhta Startup Challenge of last 2022. One more interesting thing which I just, before this panel, once I was hearing it, what I understood, very common, more we are prosperous, more the waste we are generating. That's what I'm sensing it out, right? Yeah. But we need more responsible people, those who are actually talking about it. And I appreciate, I have not came across with such kind of the discussions, at least in where I'm living right now. I think such discussions are also required across part of the country. I'll definitely facilitate if anything is required, but this discussion is very, very important. And thank you so much for calling us here and igniting the minds for taking care about the waste management. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sushil. I'm glad we listened to you after we had tea and snacks, but I think I know what I'm going to have for lunch today. So, but there's also, I'm also very impressed about how this is sort of being used in industries such as aviation, because at least ground transportation, we're slowly moving electric. There's a pathway. Aviation, I think it's fantastic to see that there's progress there as well. We'll move on to the last of our initial presentations. I'd like to invite Dr. Vasudevan, who needs no introduction. Sir, can you please go ahead and make your presentation?
Thank you. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this panel discussion. I especially thank Mridula for a great involvement in the process. And as the topic suggests, a solution for solid waste management, lesson from Madurai. I'm happy it is what I'm going to talk from Madurai only. And this is a solution for plastic pollution. And I would like to start with the word think differently, very important. Plastic is God's gift. It has come at a particular time when the environment was simply exploited in different ways. To save the environment, plastic has become a wonderful substitute. Therefore, we will try to think about it in a different way. And therefore, I always say, better to plan than ban. Of course, I'm here because of the blessings of my guru, and my technology has been recognized by India and been awarded certain awards, and especially Padma Shri also. And the whole work has been patented, and then my work was actually offered $300 million by United States. I said, no, I don't want it. I give it to my country freely. And that's how the whole technology has been accepted. Today, it is more used in all places in India and outside also. And because of the short time, I would like to ask a simple question. I would like to talk in terms of plastic. What plastic speaks? I say, a friend in need, a friend indeed. I came when you are in need. I am being used by all. Even I could see on your table there. I'm a poor man, a poor man's need and common man's friend. Have I created any problem by myself? Am I a poison? No, no. It is your disposal. You dispose me indiscriminately and you face the problem. Would you blame me? I am here even today to serve you in all forms and in every aspect of it. Therefore, see here, I am available at all places. Plastic is being used as material for storing food, storing medicine, or carrying so many things, and especially for medical also. You see the cup, carry bag, parcel, milk pouch, filling foam, whatnot. Whatever you say, all this material, plastic is important. You can't say no to that. Whatever may be your method of burning, you are only trying to minimize it only. You cannot remove it because it is a so useful material. Remember that plastic, very important. So what to do? And one great aspect about plastic, they say plastic is not biodegradable. It takes so many years. Let it take it, no bother about it. See, there are certain materials which are decomposed immediately. There are certain have time frame. And you know, stone never decomposes. Gold is not decomposed. Diamond is not decomposed. They have the value. Similarly, plastic is also it's not decomposed so easily, but on heating, it forms a beautiful paste, which is a wonderful binder, a binder much better than our cement and other materials. So plastic has got a beautiful property called the binding property. And if you find the potential of the plastic as a binder, you can create so many wonderful products in the world. That is what we are going to see now. Therefore, plastic is not a waste. It's the most useful material you are going to see here. See, therefore, it is a poor man's need, common man's friend. You can go to any hut, they have the plastic plastic cup, plastic mat, everything. And it gives a natural protection. During your COVID, it is the plastic that came to your help and substitute for many structural materials. The car is made of plastic, many materials in plastic. It is inspiration to technology and technologists. So plastic film is available, it has to be there. The problem is only the plastic, carelessness and carelessness of the human being. In marine, you see the maximum of the waste is available. Cigarette butts, how you have cigarette butts in marine? So unless the people is throwing it, if they no fish is smoking. So you see here, the cigarette butt, chocolate cap, bottle, these are all man-made problem only. And you see here, the major contributors, littering urban is about 60%, whereas your rural is only 30%. The literate is 80% urban, but they contribute more. The literate is very low in rural, but they contribute very less. Therefore, it's the man-made problem only. If you could rethink and analyze the whole thing, understand that there is no problem with the plastic can be effectively used. But without understanding it, we simply throw it in all places and create landfill. Landfill is the problem which are creating, which is not necessary. We can have our own, as we said already, organic material can be converted into manure. Plastic can be useful material. All material can be used. Therefore, there is no need for landfill at all. It is only proper management is important. Temporary dams are all only creating problems to us. This is postponement of the problem only. Therefore, let us try to know more about this. What you do is simply your carelessness, throw the plastic and collect it, and that creates all the problem. See here, why the plastic is banned? The pollution by the waste plastic dumps in river. How it has gone to the river? Unless we throw it indiscriminately, it's a poor corporate culture only. Not being able to, and the government is not able to implement the technology, rules and regulation properly, and awareness, especially educated people, they don't want to have. Even yesterday, I was distributing chocolates on the Independence Day to the people, and every people took a chocolate, and after taking chocolate, the paper, they simply throw it everywhere. That it has been available. All people, they were simply throwing it every place. This is only less awareness and carelessness of our people only. The biodegradable, don't, I said, I already told you, it's not a problem. It is a virtue of the plastic, because we are going to develop so many products. It can be recycled, and the rack pickers are there. If they can help us in every respect, only thing in training is important. Otherwise, animals and birds are very much affected here. So I give an idea about that. recover the plastic, you can collect all the plastic from the dump, from the marine, from situ, wherever you can collect. Separate them non-plastic, plastic. Plastic can be separated, film plastic, thick plastic, and moldable plastic. And all the film up to microns of 90 to 100 micron, films, monofilm, multi-film, or chocolate bag, or kurkure bag, any of those multi-layer or metallized bag can be very well used for wonderful road making, plastone, boulders, etc. And the bottles and other things can be used as a beautiful thinner and filler for the material, and other things can be very well recycled. No waste is there. Every part of the material can find its own use, either in the road or in the filler or the structural material or for remolding. And see, we have developed what are the products is there. We have developed road, plastics or road. This road is made up of our plastic waste only. You take, I will show here, you take the stone and coat it with the plastic and coat it with plastic. After coating, you heat the stone for 170 degrees and the plastic is nothing, waste plastic. All those things shredded like this, small powder. I can show it here. Small powder, shredded here. And on adding the plastic over the stone and add bitumen, you get a beautiful material. See here, this is a beautiful road making, and this road life not less than 15 years. There is no pothole formation, and there is no rutting or no graveling. And this road already we have laid, since we are laying the road since 2002. And already government has laid 3 lakh kilometers in India, and border roads are being laid. The plastic, and every kilometer of the single lane road requires 1 ton of plastic. Remember that single lane 1 kilometer requires 1 ton, which means 10 lakhs carry back. India has got 60 lakhs kilometers of road. I need more than 500 lakh tons of plastic waste for road alone. India has got only 50 lakh. I need for road alone 500 lakhs, and the road strength is so good, double the strength it has got. No, therefore, wonderful road, no pothole, strong road. Consumption of plastic is wonderful. No, we don't have enough plastic. I say produce more plastic, give it to me, so that our Indian roads will be much better. And our own very and expertise, where you can say alternate day, you see paper, there is a pothole in Bangalore, pothole in Pune, and accidents taking place. Here the road, there is no pothole. And we can also develop materials like see here, fiber block using plastic, and this can be used on the roadside. On both sides, you can use it as a walking, and this consumes more than 1,000 lakhs tons of sheets. So more than 1,000 tons of plastic can be used. And we have used other materials like stone. And I am showing a model here, plastone. This is used for constructing our toilets. For each toilet, I need only half a ton to 3/4 ton. And India, our government is planning to have 2 crores ton of 2 crores toilet. That means 1 crore ton of plastic required. Where is it? And how can we use? And also now I have developed boulders for sea erosion prevention. And these boulders needs large amount of plastic.
Professor,
and let me proceed, please. So therefore, that is the very useful materials have been developed. All these processes are very important, and the roads we are laying the road at all places. Cold region, hilly region, forest region, rainy places.
Professor Dr. Vasudevan, can you hear us?
Please.
Yeah. So just wanted to request you if you could wind up your presentation in a couple of minutes.
I'm coming to almost the final. I'm coming to that. So it's very good in that respect. But whenever you present something to be given, the presentation is not for something else, but should have some message to the people also. Therefore, here the plastic, which is useful, the road is wonderful, it consumes your plastic also, and therefore a wonderful technology. No need to condemn the plastic, but use the plastic and use it. And here, the government has already come forward with 80,000 crores for laying the plastic road, and our Prime Minister has already assured that this will be taken to that level. And the plastone, which you see, it is available for can use pathway blocks, favor blocks, water canals, lawns, bridges, whatnot, you mention anything, we can convert it. So all the plastic can be very well used in process. Therefore, and we are wrongly we are looking to go to a thick plastic. It's enough if you use 20 micron. It is the improper planning in the higher level only. If you increase the thickness, your consumption of plastic increases and decomposes. And there is no alternate equal alternate to plastic. Remember that plastic has got its own hydrophobic characteristic. That is very important. You can't have a substitute for that. Therefore, that's a limitation you try to understand. And one thing is proper garbage culture. The conference can think about proper garbage culture, encourage voluntary reduction, segregation store, infrastructure for reduction, organized rack picker, encouraging bicycle. These are the things which you think about it, and awareness to the public is very important in that respect. And I say, therefore, nothing is a waste in the world. Everything depends upon the user. The user, if the right person attends the potential, even a straw becomes a fruit, a peacock becomes a God message. Therefore, remember that it is wonderful. Plastic is a God's creation, and no need to think about the destruction. Use it for betterment. That is the best message I can give you for the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And I particularly liked how in, I think, 2-3 slides before the end, you spoke about, again, the supply chain and creating, I guess, professionalizing the rack picking industry and so on, which is essentially where we started off with Shekhar's presentation. So in some sense, this panel was also circular. So, we've run a little bit behind time. So what we'll do is, instead of going through rounds 2 and 3 as I'd originally planned, we'd go straight into a Q&A kind of session. I've received a bunch of questions from people online, and some of my questions that I had were somewhat similar. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions to the audience based on some of the questions I've received from people online, and then we'll open it out to a few questions from people who are here. So my first question, and I'd like both Shekhar and Dr. Vasudevan to take a shot at this, is what you're doing, Shekhar, for instance, is fantastic. But how do you scale? I mean, you've shown us what you've done in Bangalore, but India is such a large country. What are the challenges that we face, and how do you think we can scale this?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, one of the things that Nalini, for example, talked about was political will, right? So 8 years ago, when we started the company, we thought Bangalore was progressive and, first mover in terms of the bulk generator rule, right? In most cities, bulk generators generate up to 40% of the total waste of the city. So if you actually have that bulk generator rule, which says that they have to manage waste on their own and pay for it, it would have been a great solution. And in fact, my first pitches to the investors were that I would go multi-city because every city would adopt this. But you need the right bylaws, the right thing. So a lot of times scaling is not because you can't do it, or the model is not scalable, or the lack of capital or anything of that sort, but it is the local municipal corporations and panchayats which are not allowing it to happen. And there are many reasons for that. But I think scale will come if there is political and citizen will, right? So a lot of people talk to us about how segregation at source is not sustainable. Today, we have 300 apartment complexes, for example, segregating at source. Otherwise, we don't pick up. We don't pick up mixed waste. They segregate it into 3 streams. So all of these solutions are scalable. But it is, for example, the rule in Bangalore, if it was fully implemented, we would be doing maybe 4,000 bulk generators today. But because it is not implemented by the local municipal corporation, the local contractors go and take it and dump it wherever, we are not able to scale. So the scale is because everything else has been enabled. The law is there. We have the waste pickers. We have the model, everything in place. But the reality on the ground is the rule is not implemented, right? So that is one of the things. Now, for example, biogas plant is a totally different thing. Though it has come into the priority lending sector, no bank has given us a loan so far. So again, it becomes implementation. It becomes having the right frameworks, understanding that in a startup mode, you can't go with 3 years, profitable audited statements and then take a loan. You have to have some capital coming into CapEx, and venture capitalists typically want asset-light models. I mean, that's the famous word, right? Asset-light models. They don't want to invest in anything that has CapEx. So those are some of the challenges I feel that are right now.
Yeah, I want to hold that venture capital thought. We've got one VC here, and I had a question around that as well. But just like to also get Dr. Vasudevan, your thoughts also on the challenges to scaling. Shekhar has talked about political willingness. He's talked about the willingness of citizens. Would you like to weigh in on some of your thoughts on how we might scale? Is he not? Okay, no, that's okay. Then we'll, when he comes back, we can ask him a question. Okay, which means we will move on. Oh, Dr. Vasudevan, can you hear us?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So no, we had a question.
You are asking me?
Yes. Asking you about your suggestions on how we could scale some of these technologies and efforts.
Technology has been appreciated. It has been recognized, but implementation comes. The implementation, road laying is only politicians. And our own politicians, or most of them are all contractors also. They want to lay the road once in a year or once in 2 years. So if you want to have a 15 years road, they are not interested. Therefore, Tamil Nadu, they are not implementing. I'm openly giving a statement. Tamil Nadu is not implementing because Tamil Nadu government told me about that also. Whereas 11 to 12 states are all implementing this technology, and now North India, most of the countries, states have already implemented 3 lakh kilometers been road. And it's a political will is important, and this conference should make the people to think about it, so that the politicians take the right decision. Because the road is for us, road is not for them. The road should be, if the road is good, we will be happy. Therefore, make them to ride the right road. We will be very happy about that. That's one thing. And then for laying the road, we need plastic. As ratification beautifully was made arrangement for that. Practification should be arranged and to be properly recognized, to be properly supported financially, and social recognition is very important. We give on those are the people who can only help us to collect the plastic, which you need for road laying. Therefore, collecting and awareness among the people very important. Awareness for collecting and ratification collect and road laying then. This cycle is completed. That is circular economy, I will put it. That is how we can do. If you do that, India will be prosperous. When all other countries are ready to take this technology, why not we? Definitely, only our mind should be broad to take the right technology. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think, again, that's very consistent in some sense with what Shekhar spoke about. I think we're talking about recognition, awareness, political willingness as some of the basic sort of preconditions to get this to scale. My next set of questions are, or my next question is to both Som and Sushil. And again, these are also questions that have been echoed by some of our participants online. How do we sort of organize ourselves to really deliver impact? So you have the entrepreneur who's developing a technology, but you also have these connections that you're making up and down the supply chain. We spoke a little bit about potentially private investment coming in, and both Som and Shekhar, both of you have made the point that what you've done is not in partnership with government, but through private capital and so on. Could you talk a little bit about your thoughts, again, in terms of scaling, but how you might organize through partnerships for scaling? So, would you like to go first? And then Sushil, you can.
Thanks. So, I mean, it's a long chain, right? So it's a long chain. First of all, we have, to put together such projects. Let's take this, the macro problem, which is like on a country scale. We heard today that the numbers can be around 150,000 to 300,000 tons per day. Let's take that 300,000 number because that's more likely the case. 50% of which means India produces on a daily basis of about 150,000 tons of wet waste, right? Which is what I'll stick to right now. So in order to solve this quantum of waste, we roughly need about 1,000 to 1,500 plants, each costing about somewhere between 50 to 60 crores. Now we are talking about a total investment size of around 50,000 crores. Now that's a big number, but it's not when you look at the budgets of these municipalities, what they're currently spending. So Bangalore, for example, they're spending about 1,000 crores per annum. And to solve Bangalore's problem, entire capex required is less than about 1,500 crores. Right? So 1.5 years, like what, and because the fuel that you're generating out of it can also be used for the trucks. So it's India like doesn't need this, like, we don't have the money is not the issue. It's like how you organize. And can we do the first 100 plants through private investments, angel networks, etc. So you need to have today we have Bangalore, we have an operational plant, and I think we get at least about 100 visitors once in 2-3 months, right? Average we get about 10 visitors a month. And that's like, people are seeing this, trying to go and replicate elsewhere. And we're very open about it because if at all we have about 10 years to solve for this, I don't think 10 is even valid anymore. It's even shorter. Then we need to do it in urgency. And real urgency is to scale, is to create entrepreneurs like us in different cities. We do knowledge sharing, help them, handhold them to get this done. And these projects can be conceived like from the start to finish and becoming profitable on its own can be done in a span of 24 months, right? 1 year to set it up, another 1 year to get the whole thing started. And the chain is you start with a waste management company, you have an operator company, and then you have the optics. Now, the good thing is the government is also ready to offtake the gas or inject into the grid. There's been a 5% blending mandate that's come out, which means like how ethanol story, it was 1.5% of ethanol blending 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Today it's 14%. And the government is saying it's going to go even more. So they've fast forwarded the target. It was what they're supposed to achieve in 2030. They've already achieved now. Similarly, they're going to do it in biogas. And good that the government came back. Now the whole focus is 5% blending. And we don't have that much supply right now. So there is an ecosystem is being set up because of the right policies. We need source segregation. There's no debate about it. We need multiple companies to come together. And that's what we're creating, a replicable model. I mean, why should we like get a car loan in 2-3 days? And here we need replicable assets that can be refinanced, and there should be a secondary market. So it shouldn't be hard to get. Most of the equipments that we need for setting up such factories are movable, right? 70% of the equipments are movable. So there should be a secondary market created so that you can replace those assets if there is a problem in that particular project. So which means debt financiers will come forward. That's my couple of cents.
Excellent. Thanks, Sushil. And I think this point on replication is critical because we don't have to reinvent the wheel everywhere. I think there are models that work. Of course, you've got to tune them because the nature of the rack picker, the nature of the waste, the nature of the oil will vary geographically and spatially. But primarily, we are looking at essentially a replication model. Sushil, your thoughts?
I'll just give a different perspective, like scalability we are talking about, right? Ethanol, just now you mentioned the example. For me, I might be the wrong, but my perspective, why ethanol is a great story for India, because it was impacting the bigger vote bank. Because there was enough farmers who can actually get incentivized. Since this is such a big chain was involved, it was easy. There was enough incentive. Earlier, sugarcane farmer was getting he was getting paid in 90 days, 6 months and so. After this ethanol story, 30 days, maximum of 45 days. So now this entire thing was getting attracted. So it's a great story. Just now I was hearing to all the panels. Those who are picking up the waste, if they can also they are also the vote bank for the government. I'm just trying to give you the perspective. If at all government will think, they will have to think around it. You don't agree with that? Sorry? So that's job of all the people, those who are on the ground. I'm just saying because it's difficult unless your consumer is not asking for it, nothing is going to change. And the consumer will change if government will require, that's a great, everybody needs incentive. Government incentive is the vote and our incentive is the consumer. If my consumer will start asking it, I have no choice, I have to change myself. So that's one perspective. And second perspective, I just wanted to give, again, the schools. It will start from the schools. 5 years after that, once the kids will come out, they should be aware. It should be part of every course. If it is part of the course, that's a behavioral change we need. Investment is need ROI. ROI is of course come from what's time required and the impact we have seen. Every investment takes little more time than the ones go to any other field. So of course, there is always a priority for the investors to where to invest. Yeah, that's all from my side.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so thanks a lot for that, Sushil. The one thing that I may not completely agree upon is the schools part, because I feel schools actually in many cases do sort of a half decent job, but there's just no follow-up outside of schools. And that's where the problem is. Kids spend about 40 hours a week in school, 100 hours outside, and therefore there's enough time to unlearn. So I think we've got to fix the outside of school problem and then sort of reinforce through schools is my thing. So I've been told that we're almost out of time. So we have time for one more question. And because I promised that I would take a live question, we will take our last question from the audience. Sir, so would request you to make the question crisp. And I would request all our panelists to make the answers crisp as well. If you have a loud voice, you can exercise it.
The question is the plants that you have set up, are they profitable? Are they self-sustaining?
Yes, absolutely. So our oldest plant is now able to show on a monthly basis about couple of lakhs. Okay, that's a small scale plant set up in Kormangla. The one that we set up jointly, it's doing about, again, on an EBITDA level, that should have been doing about 2 crores. We've reached about 50 lakhs. So again, this journey that we are going through is that we are having to bring in our own capital to invest and take everything on expensive, lease the land as opposed to buy the land. That's a huge difference. So for example, our landlord is the biggest beneficiary of this whole exercise because he earns 6 lakhs per month as rent on an investment of 1 crore on the land parcel that he picked up. But we still did it because we wanted to make a case that 6 lakhs can be generated out of revenues of the project and therefore still can be paid. So back to your question, it is completely viable. We are showing that's the proof points that we are making sure, because if you have to scale this to 5,000 plants, we need the first dozen plants to show that even before we offer a franchise that these are profitable. If you invest, I met a hotelier from Madurai. I won't take much more time. He said, if I invest 1 crore, I should earn 5 lakhs a month. Okay, that's my numbers. But I've earned so much, this I can earn 2 lakhs a month. That's okay. And I said, sir, this is the workings, you can do that. And then he said, and especially if you take debt and equity, you can definitely do that 2 lakhs. Right. And he was like, then right, I have got my homework to do on how to collect the waste. So, you can't expect the 5% return per month per crore, but you can go up to like a 20% return on your capital. That's what I can assure you of.
Thank you. So we're out of time, but I'm assuming that both Shekhar and Sushil would also agree about the viability, the economic viability of all of these sort of businesses. We didn't get into the details of finances, but Shekhar, what a quick...
at the end of the day, we have to find models that are viable. And I think it starts from what I call the polluter pays principle, which is the generator, whether they're the brands or through extended producer responsibility or as a user through a user fee, have to pay for waste management, because end-to-end waste management is a negative value process. Someone has to pay for it. There are points in the value chain which are profitable. For example, plastics recycling could be profitable, but otherwise end-to-end, it's a negative value process. So someone has to pay for it.
Right.
So we have to understand that, and as a generator and as a brand, so on, we have to pay for it.
Yeah, thanks. Fair point. Okay, so we're out of time. So I'm just going to, I'm not going to try to summarize because we've not concluded anything through this panel. I think it's been a conversation, an ongoing conversation. There's more to discuss. But just sort of to take off from what, Shekhar and Som and others were saying at the end, I think we've moved a long way from, in the past, typically these panels would have a number of NGO representatives. And I think NGOs do a fantastic job, a very valuable job. But I think it's interesting to see the transition from having NGOs talking about waste and waste management to actually companies that are now talking about things like EBITDA and things like this, right? So I think we're moving in that direction. We've got to sort of say, I think Shekhar made a fantastic point towards the end that look at, somewhere, whether it's a carbon tax or whatever it is, right? We've got to find some mechanism to quantify these externalities and bring them into the, sort of into the accounting table, right? Parlance. And how we do that, I think, is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So we'll fundamentally have to relook at business models in this sector have to relook at partnerships in this sector. Of course, political willingness and so on will have to go hand in hand if these kinds of businesses are to flourish. But we seem to have made a promising beginning, as can be seen from several of these kinds of efforts. If we are able to, and I'll carefully use the word replicate, right, which I think is a little bit different from scale. If we are able to replicate these successfully, and we'll have to figure out how to do this because we seem to be having very local conversations here rather than conversations where we should be able to take these to various parts of the country. This seems now to be a difficult but solvable problem. And I think that on that sort of positive note is where I'd like to conclude this panel. Thank you very much to all the panelists. Thank you to everyone, both here in the room as well as online. We've got more than 1,000 people who are part of this. And I'd like to hand it back to MMA. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ashwin, for so ably moderating the entire discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, there have been phenomenal success stories, waste to wealth success story is brought out. Thank you so much. Thank you all, gentlemen. Of course, Professor Dr. Vasudevan, Padmashri Vasudevan, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your perspectives. Time for us to honor the guests, dignitaries who come all the way. May I request Mr. Mahalingam and Ms. Mridula Ramesh to join? Yeah, of course, it's there. We'll just tell it. Dr. Vasudevan, since you're not here and you're not able to present the memento to you physically, you have made a digital memento for you. And I'm sure the audience will appreciate that. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining. I mean, you've been a legend for the country, and we look forward to engaging with you more often. May I request, Ms. Mridula and hand over. Ladies and gentlemen, give them a round of applause. All the 4 panelists, phenomenal success stories. So Narayan, Sunil, Vaishnav, and we have Shekhar, Prabhakar, and Professor Ashwin has been so nice in moderating and also keeping the time under check. Thank you so much, Professor. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot. So we are moving to the last session of the seminar before we break for lunch. Just give us a couple of minutes to settle down. This will be a conversation between Ms. Mridula Ramesh and Ms. Anjali Bansal. And as we just set the stage for them. And just give us a couple of minutes time and just settle down. Let's welcome Ms. Mridula Ramesh and Ms. Anjali Bansal on the stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome them with a round of applause. Since I've already introduced both the panelists in the previous sessions and you also have the detailed profiles given to you, I'll now hand over the session to Ms. Mridula Ramesh to take it forward from here.
610 now.
610 online. So you got a count. So first, thank you, Group Captain. You've done it again. And Mali, thank you for your leadership and inspiration and everything that goes with it. Thank you all for being here. I hope you're taking stuff away of value. And thank you for the people online who've been patiently listening to us. So now I really get to sit back and ask. Anjali, I think the test, the sort of subliminal messaging going through this is you have to put your money where your mouth is, right? So the question, it's always perplexed me, right? Climate is something we all say, and Climate is something we all talk about and it's gaining more and more importance. And Anjali and I have a front row seat into the gold rush that is becoming climate tech investing. Everybody and his uncle wants to have a play there. But everybody is going into EV and all of that. Why is waste not part of the story? And for the entrepreneurs and people in this room who are working in this space, how do we make it part?
First of all, I want to start by thanking MMA and Mridula for Mridula's absolutely entrepreneurial yeoman leadership in the dialogue on climate. 2 books, and I'm urging her now for a 3rd one, soonish, and on very important issues of climate action, water, and now waste. So thank you so much for doing this, for having me here, Group Captain Mali, and all the officers of the MMA. I am blown away with 250 plus people in person on a Saturday morning. I mean, I think I would put Chennai up there, really. And then, so. And on a topic which is not the next SaaS, fintech, generative AI, unicorn, that is not the topic, right? The topic is waste management, solid waste management, which is not at all glamorous, but so real, so everyday, and so much in our life. So going back to your question, Mridula, I think I want to rewind a little bit. Today, climate is hot, and I say hot with full pun intended. Even 5 years ago, we didn't have many takers for climate as commercial investment. Certainly, it was a focus in terms of energy security and fossil fuel, but there was still debate on, is this thing real? Like, what is this thing with global warming, right? You always go through these eras of cooling and heating in the Earth's history. So there were deniers even 5 years ago. Today, at least, we don't have deniers. That change has happened because you feel it every day, right? You have record temperatures, you have completely erratic monsoon. And in countries like ours, in the global north, they have other issues. They worry about heating. Here, we worry about cooling. And in countries like ours, it is a matter of both life and livelihood. So you have impact on life and health when you have all sorts of sort of climatic impact, both primary and secondary, but you also have issues of livelihood. You know, your farmers can't grow their crops. You have flooding, you have certainly, hazard to health in certain occupations. So life and livelihood is a reality. And I'll come back to why waste, I think, should now get its spot in the sun. 15 odd years ago, when the first cycle of quote unquote clean tech happened, even solar was not commercially viable. It required subsidies. And hence the first cycle of clean tech, 15, 20 years ago, pretty much clean tech investing failed. You had billions of dollars going into it. Some very prominent people who really put their money where their mouth is with very little returns. So there is a time that comes through a combination of one, shifting cost curves. So when you have decline in cost curve, today a new unit of renewable energy is actually cheaper than a new unit of thermal. So it just makes business sense. You're not doing it, for any company, any industry, it makes no sense today to not have renewable. So you want to have renewable. Next thing that happened, you mentioned EV. EV also happened because we started seeing the benefit, actual cost benefit. The OPEX on an electric vehicle because of high cost of fossil fuel is lower. That combined with government incentives, FAME 1, FAME 2, and now some version of FAME 3 is what is keeping EVs running. We are now talking about hybrid as a better intermediate solution. So for waste also, I think the time is coming. I can feel it. I know you can feel it, where the combination of a real burning platform need, a social need, a consumer need, and an economic need, combined with technologies that are viable and commercially scalable, and consequently business models that stand on their own and are commercially viable and scalable, I think that is what is required. And it is coming together. And I can say more. No, say more. We'll say more. With all of these spaces, you need the intersection and interaction of
the 4 key stakeholders. You need, first of all, you need society. There needs to be a real demand from society. All the evils that we are trying to solve for today, plastic, fossil fuel. You know, at one time, plastic was a miracle material when it was invented. Fossil fuels were a miracle when they were discovered and processed to use as fuel. It fueled the industrial revolution. It took average human lifespan from 45 to today, whatever, 85 and further. It created enough consumer surplus in the global economy to invest behind healthcare and education and a far better quality of life, right? That was a miracle then, which we are trying to get rid of now. Plastic extended shelf life for food. It helped to feed millions. And Professor just spoke about that, right? Plastic is not evil. It's what you do with it, how you dispose of it. Corporates are not evil. It's very easy to kind of blame and say, you know, all these evil corporates, they use plastic wrappers. Now, are you likely to buy a product or a biscuit that is not crisp because it was not wrapped in plastic? Or that might run the risk of some contamination because it was not airtight. So until we develop the real alternatives, and hence the investment in innovation technology for alternative materials that can actually replace plastic and yet be biodegradable. And we are looking at a lot of companies, you know, you and I look at things together, which are creating those alternatives. It is a fact of life today. So we will need to have, so one big player is real consumer demand. The other actor, and hence, is technology and innovation to provide solutions. You need corporate action, but corporate action goes hand in hand with consumer demand. You need civil society, but you also need policy. And I liked what Sushil said very well, that even, you know, what is a government's incentive? Everybody needs incentives. Government's incentive is to get elected. They need votes and they need to solve problems if that will bring them votes. But Mridula mentioned earlier in the morning that people say, you know, they will not vote based on waste. So how do you create that? So the third actor is government and policy. Fourth is capital. 100% capital is required, but you need the full capital stack. It's not just equity, it is not just risk capital. You need the philanthropy, you need the policy-based concessional capital, developmental capital, and you need equity and you need debt. That capital stack has to yet develop. And I think we are on our way. I'm a hopeless optimist. I hope all of us are optimists. So, you know, there's always progress happening. And I think we are now getting real traction on developing that full capital stack for NGOs, philanthropy and grants, for equity, early stage equity for enterprise creation, for debt, for growth. And not all businesses are venture businesses. And I'll say to all my friends here who want to build in waste, do not look for VC if your business is not VC type. But instead, we need to work across our ecosystem. And if people in this room together, if we can't solve it, who will? Today, banks, DFIs do not necessarily have the debt product. They don't want to have the debt product, but we'll have to do the early work. Like microfinance did 30 years ago, we may need to create a product that for working capital financing for waste. Pause there.
Thank you for that. I'm again and again going back to this. I think there was a theme that was running through the panel that said political will is important. And one of the graphs in our report is the scatter plot across the various cities of India. Look, I know India, like we're a little scared about our population, but one Chennai is one Israel. So let's just put that into context. So if Chennai can get its act together, it has enough demand to create another Israel, right? So why are some cities getting it? And why are some cities not? So if you look at Indore or any of the top 5 in the Swachh Sarvekshan, I mean, the system is gameable to some extent, but the top 5 are doing something special. So Indore comes up again and again. And can we talk about that? Because I think that was a theme that came up as a sort of Thodarum in the last panel. So we'll Thodamify now.
So I spent some of my growing up years in a city called Surat in Gujarat. And Surat was, I think, probably has the very dubious distinction of being probably the only real urban center that suffered from the bubonic plague in the modern era. And Surat went from being Bad Surat it was notoriously dirty, to being Khubsurat. And a crisis being a terrible thing to waste, because there was no alternative. They really had to redesign the city. And everything came together, just like everything came together in Indore. Indore didn't have as much of a crisis, so it didn't go from being Badsurat Indore to Sundar Indore, but Surat plays better on Badsurat to Khubsurat. But what came together was citizens' movement, a very enlightened bureaucracy, political support, partnership of civil society, as well as the local corporates to make it happen. And that is why some cities are getting it, and possibly also because it was a manageable scale. And Chennai is an Israel with the benefit of not having those kinds of neighbors. So we at least have peace with our neighbors here in Chennai. So it does require everyone to act together.
And this is speculation, or, what's the final push that gets them? I mean, everybody that you talked about there is here. So what's the push that can get people saying, hey, it's our problem. Let's sort of deal with this.
I think until we may all have good intent, but the human psychology is such, until it either pinches you in the pocketbook because you're paying too much for health, or it is really difficult to live in those surroundings, people don't act.
Yeah.
No one does it for anybody else. So ultimately, people do it for themselves. Could be for health, could be, if you create replicable, scalable, profitable business models, this becomes a business. And why not? And then you find entrepreneurs going into it, both SMEs as well as technology. And, money is a great, I think,
Money
here
is
agreed.
20% return on capital is what he was talking about. I'll take it.
Totally. No, we have a company called Iki Foods. Right? So Iki in a different space is not waste. But Iki started with this model because they are in the agricultural space. They do climate resilient farming. And they started with this model of working with landowners because they gave them an assured income. And it scaled beautifully. So I think your model reminds me of that. Very possible to do. And there is absolutely no reason why you should not be getting working capital financing. Commercial working capital financing at, 10, 12, 14%. Not equity at 40%.
No, I mean, I watch Netflix at night. So it's, I'm watching a show and it's set in the 60s and people are chain smoking. It's like just all the time drinking away red meat, but cancer was nowhere. Whereas cancer is everywhere, and I don't smell cigarettes in this room. And I think we need to ask, why are these going up? And there is this waste burning is definitely it's like a key to the unlocking of inflammation in your body. So if you want an incentive, and she said you need a health incentive to get your act together. Look, people, it's this room that can actually make it happen in one city. That's the kind of political change that we need. But then moving aside, I think, one of the comments that Ashwin made is, look, this used to be an NGO space, and now it's moving to a commercial space. And you can say what you like about capitalism, but the one advantage that capitalism has is speed. Once you get a model, it can scale really fast. So as an investor in this space, what are some of the things that you look for?
So we look for size of problem, because if it's a big problem, it means there will be possibly a big market for that solution. So God knows this is a big problem. So big problem, but also with that, a big market opportunity. I talked about the types of capital earlier, the full capital stack. Not all problems are ready for equity investment. So unless there is a really large market opportunity, it is probably not ready for equity investment. And so we wait when we see things like that. We look at, is there a truly innovative technology-led innovation, because that is the Avana Climate Fund's mandate. that is defensible, that provides a moat that is competitive and that is scalable. Third is there a business model on top of the technology? Because technology is not what creates the enterprise, the business model does. And so is there a business model that is investable and scalable? And very importantly for us is what's the quality of the team? What's the quality of the team? What's their passion? What's their right to play and right to win? So do they bring something unique? Is this the right complementarity of skill sets? So size of problem, size of market, the technology innovation, business model, and quality of team. That's what we look for.
Now, we've seen some examples of startups playing the field. Given that there is a fairly big young crowd here, and not all my entrepreneurs are young, so young at heart, energetic crowd also, like us, yeah, who are here. What is the problem, parts of the waste problem or the climate problem that you're not seeing solutions for, which you wish you would see startups in?
So we spent some time yesterday at the IIT Madras Research Park, and whenever I'm there, I just feel very optimistic. And I think we are finding solutions. So, but the couple of areas that I do wish one saw more of is actually core science. So investment, whether in universities or corporate R&D, in alternative materials. Alternative materials, getting rid of plastic per se from the chain itself is, I was asked once, what's the world you dream of? I said, okay, 100% renewable, which means you need to have grid scale storage solutions to get to 100% renewable. And the other is a world without plastic. And a world without plastic means you need to have alternatives for plastic. So these two combined, and I will add to it now, I have a number 3, which is water, real solutions for water, which I know we are not discussing today. So I would like to see more going into development of alternative materials and market-ready models. Market-ready models. So both the innovation and the technology and the product, but very importantly in these spaces, and waste is now coming into its own. Dr. Ashwin mentioned we are seeing that transition. Civil society is super important, by the way. Everybody working in the NGO space. I mean, I have utmost respect and admiration because those are thankless tasks for the most part. But to go from NGO, where you have a model that works, to then making it a replicable, commercially scalable model is, I think, where we need to spend more time and effort in today.
So if I just was to summarize what Anjali said, Ashwin, I think if you can get IIT to sort of work on alternative materials, that will be really great. I think Dr. Vasudevan, if you're still there, yes, plastic has a role, but a little more alternative materials and binding products. And I think so you need to go spread the good word, because if you want to replicate, you have to move faster. Sushil, continue on the stuff that you're doing.
And please get creative, not in the accounting sense, but get creative about building your capital stack. Doesn't have to be one size fits all.
No, and I really like what Hasiratullah has done there, which is they've really segregated out, philanthropic, grant capital, and for-profit capital. So that thinking is coming up front.
And I already have ideas on how to link up more with corporates for partnerships. Because what you've done with Unilever, you should be able to do with every company that has a net zero waste target, including, Tata Group and Nestle and so on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys, there's one thing I want to say. I think a lot of the conversations I've had behind the scenes with many of these entrepreneurs is there is demand. There's real demand coming in from policies such as, which requires companies like Unilever to start using recycled material. But in some sense, because we are not segregating, they're getting starved, right? So there is an onus on us, and I'll take a minute, if I may, to share a personal story. When I started on this, I said, look, I know nothing about this, so let's start segregating in our house. And my husband, who many of you may know, has a very dry sense of humor. He's like, you'll be traveling and you'll do some stupid thing, and if people quit in the house, I can't deal with this. So the underlying bedrock of philosophy of segregation in our house was convenience. Okay, like no additional effort in segregation at scale. videos are on the thing. But if you do that consistently, we've saved 45 tons from going into the landfill over the last 8 years in one house. So I'm just saying easiness has its role. Conscience can only take us so far. Easiness is also important. And that's very important because we are not doing it together, is keeping them staffed because there is a pull demand. I mean, if you talk to any of these brands, they're all saying, give me more segregated plastic, I have room for it. You heard what Dr. Vasudevan said. Give me more plastic, I have a use for it. It's just giving the segregated plastic, which really involves our role in it.
Well, Mridula runs, I call it a net zero home. She calls it an almost net zero home because she's very authentic. But it is a net zero home and it is absolutely phenomenal. It shows you can do it if you want, and not just convenience, but not just because of purpose and passion, but actually making it convenient. I do want to make a point on corporate responsibility. I think regulation has a role to play. And for the most part, policy and regulation actually has played a fairly positive role, at least in India, where we do not have a divided polity on the issue of climate and building, particularly adaptation and resilience in the country with EPR. And EPR has created a market for plastic which didn't exist. So you have to do market creation, and that policy and regulation can help to do. I think it is time for there to be market creation for e-waste as well, and hence more efficiencies around it. So with EPR now coming into e-waste, we are talking about going EV. What happens to the batteries? So we have to think about second life of battery business models. So instead of taking a 70% functioning battery, which cannot do automotive anymore, and then putting it into recycling, can you reuse, repurpose? So I think a lot of new business models are emerging there as well.
So I think the short summary of that is watch this space. Right? Watch this space because it's going to be interesting. And for the would-be entrepreneurs in this room, this is a great time to get in. So hopefully you've taken away some ideas from that. We have a ton of questions from the thing. I'm going to. So the first question, how do you guys handle the political pressures and problems to make these kind of companies work? Because in my hometown, the government collects taxes and they burn and dump the waste.
I don't feel qualified to answer that.
Okay. Anybody want to take a? I think
organizing the people, consumers, like the military should be organized and people who work for the organization. So you can really lot of
Consumers equal to voters.
I think managing or branding perception could also play a role. Like things have been done in the mutual fund industry. Everybody knows mutual fund sahi hai. But why not, waste management sahi hai or something like that? If there are some efforts in branding it, making it fashionable.
Right. No, for sure. You have 20,000 crores going in every month into SIP, then you have the surplus to do that. But it is a virtuous cycle. It's the chicken and egg. Certainly, if there was a waste industry, I'm not convinced today we have a waste industry. Right? We have a energy industry and we have a EV industry. We have a food industry. We have a big plastic and chemicals industry. Where is the waste industry? So if there were to be the creation of a waste industry association, which then could represent itself with both local and national government and do the awareness creation, I think there is absolutely, there are playbooks that exist.
Another question. I mean, again, I'm going to go back to the intersections of corporate, government, national government, state government. You do work with the Niti Aayog. So how could that interaction work out? Like Niti Aayog working with some of the cities, they put out some excellent work on waste. Right. So is there something that could come from here to facilitate that conversation, or from there to facilitate this conversation moving forward?
So my experience with Niti Aayog, and I think Professor here has also been engaging with them, is Listen, I think government is also looking for solutions. Government cannot be the creator of solution. They will seek solution from typically industry or civil society. It will take its time and process because there is a process to it. At the end of which the outcome will be either enabling regulation, positive regulation or negative regulation. So it could be a incentive, for example, or it could be a tax in the case of EPR that helps to do market creation. It can also help to create those, again, I talk about capital because capital is the fuel. You do need money, whether it is for civil society, NGOs, or for enterprises. But with Niti Aayog, I think there is now actually a whole new climate program. It's a defined program on climate. There's a senior person, a program director for climate as well, who's looking at India's net zero roadmap holistically across industries. So it's a great time to interface with them. And if there are solutions that are working, I'm happy to kind of facilitate that.
Okay. No, the one thing that got mentioned in the sidelines, and I'm going back to a question here, is what about medical waste? Because, we can't do without it, right? Without plastics, you can't, modern medicine would not be possible today. And many of us are sitting here thanks to modern medicine. So I won't bite the hand that feeds me. How do we deal with that? Any thoughts at all? Are you seeing companies in this space? I've met someone here, but I haven't seen a company managing medical waste except by incineration.
So to be honest, I haven't actually looked into it, so I don't know enough. What I do know is the next gen materials being created and innovated perhaps will lead to less waste in any case across the board. I don't know enough about the disposal of medical waste.
No, I'm going to turn it around some of the academics here. Do we have the kind of capability in local universities to engineer these kind of materials? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And what do you need to make that move faster?
So what happens is there is paper called technology readiness level.
Yeah.
Academic university get to a TRL level of which is
but not ready for commercial scale. Commercial scale happens at a TRL level of about 6. This 3 to 6 is a bit of a valley of death. As an academic, I've published my papers, I've created my patents. I'm not interested in taking it further. Industry is not interested in it either. So we're now trying to create this concept of what we call a venture studio, where we're trying to sort of push or pull these technologies from 3 to 6. So we bring in entrepreneurs, bring in some capital, things like this. So I think this mechanism, otherwise there's a lot of good research out there, patents as well, but they aren't at a position where they're ready to.
And that's exactly where we pick up, right? So when we invest at Avana, we invest in both product innovation and process innovation. When it comes to product and core deep tech, or I don't know what is shallow tech, so but people say deep tech, so let's say stay with that. Core technology, we look at TRL 5+, where there is proof in the lab and either already commercial POC or ready to commercialize fully. So the TRL 5+, I think now there are more of us who are willing to take that risk. That TRL 3 to 5 is really where the gap is. I think there's enough, there's some phenomenal work happening in India, but phenomenal work happening around the world on the next gen materials. And I have my colleague, Dr. Astha here, and she says, I don't want to call them alternative materials, they're next gen materials. So next gen materials. Next gen materials for everything, for packaging, plastics, for medical or health tech. Health tech is huge, lots of capital there, right? So if somebody creates a product, I'm sure it gets funded. But again, a commercially replicable, scalable product, I'll keep going back to that.
I think we're done with questions there. How much time do we have, Prabhakar? Oh, another 3. We have one question from another investor. Yeah. He's from Native Ventures.
Coimbatore, I think this is a very interesting part. The academics connected with part of startups who do innovation in multiple universities using faculties, research scholars. There's some millions of, hundreds of crores of assets which are education institutions and these setups. There are fantastic faculty who keep doing repetitive cookie cutters. Now, 2 problems. One, industry interface. Two, problem statements are connected. Third, the worst crime is paper presentation and patents for the sake of patents and now for some government accreditation. The worst part is they keep looking for artificial novelty rather than real life problems. Like somebody will say, like, uranium or some plutonium because it's not there in any publication on technology search. So it becomes so for novel outcome for a patent, but no real life application. If that bridge were to be closed, we would have all our problems sorted out. If somebody says very holy, inglorious plastic repurposing lab, it doesn't need 1 rupee more. And there is enough faculty, enough research scholars, and enough problem statements in the world.
What's the question?
No, the question is, one of the problems we are talking about is we don't need to go out at all. All these are lying in our, like what he's talking about. Not just IITs. Even your mid-level colleges have the equipments, the faculty, the knowledge, research scholars. So we are not the problems to them to get the outcome.
So I think the question is, I'll ask the question based on that. So what can we do to sort of fish for these innovations lying hidden in all these colleges?
Well, you need different kinds of fishermen, right? There are deep sea fishermen and there are stream fishermen, and so there will be fishermen if there is fish. I'm sorry to use that analogy, but yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So, I mean, for example, funds like us, no, we work across the board with incubators, with universities in India and overseas, recognizing that some of our solutions don't need to be novel, they need to be applied. And the application in the solution is really what will scale and be funded. And when it comes to, listen, I'm not a university researcher, but I also know everybody's human. So folks are looking for what gives them joy and satisfaction. So I mean, some people will do core research, and God bless. And we should have people who do core research for which there is no application today. But there will be, I think for every one of those, there's probably 10 people who actually want to commercialize. We have enough success stories in India now. We can say that, hey, the university system needs to do a better job. Sure, they do. But ultimately, if there is opportunity, there will be entrepreneurs.
If there are fish, there will be fishermen. Yes. One last question, just behind you, and then we close. But a question, please, not a statement. One question.
Where there is no such system which is prevalent today. We have got a
pharmaceutical.
Yeah. Pharmaceutical.
I don't know enough about that space, so I will not comment.
Dr. Vasudevan uses it in his road. He uses it in roads. There is multiple solutions coming up. Yeah. Finally, so I think
by including things like we've seen folks, and we haven't seen how well it works, but there are people working on taking both MLP as well as single-use plastic back into the chain, converting it back into polyolefins. Not just glasses, they're actually putting it straight back into the process itself. So taking it back to source.
So not downcycling.
Yeah, not downcycling.
So look, I think with coming to a close, and if I hear what I'm hearing is the time is now, right? It's a serious problem because finally, until all of you feel it's a serious problem, the consumer demand won't come. The policies may exist, but not be implemented. Right. And I think we need inclusivity. So there is the solution of the waste pickers is still there and becoming a society where, you know, I mean, when I saw their life, it's like, I think wrong. It's morally wrong. I don't use that word very often, but I think it's morally wrong. And we have to
but somebody mentioned this use of CV, computer vision, for automated AI-led segregation, and what it might do for livelihood, a negative impact on employment and livelihood. There are ways to get around it. If you can have the ownership of these things sit with cooperatives that are actually owned, by waste pickers or waste workers, so to speak. I like the green worker better than the waste worker. But there are ownership models where they can participate in the economic value creation of this, but will require the same kind of intervention that we have seen in cooperative farming and microfinance. So those models exist. We have to think about, again, replicating those models and making them more relevant in this largely unorganized informal space.
So, no, I think, thank you. And one thing I'll say is, look, the solutions are there. 10, 20 years ago, solutions weren't there. There weren't funders. There weren't examples I could point to in India that are doing this. Khubsurat, Indore, and many others. I think we're in a place where we can actually learn from, but finally, without our cooperation, it's not going to move forward in our city.
So I think.
Can we answer it offline if that's
Yeah,
okay?
I think, yeah, we can, a lot of questions are there, we can. No problem. We'll just take, I'm sure there are many other questions. We have to keep up with time. So we'll take the questions offline as well. They are going to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, you agree with me that this has been a ground zero level practical discussion, the last one.
One second, I just want to say something.
Yeah, please.
So thank you, Anjali, for doing this. I think I know how busy you are, so thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, and all of you, please don't leave without seeing. Please, Ananth, please stand. Our wonderful young artist, entrepreneur, researcher, Ananth Krishna. He is the real hero for today. Please see his paintings before you leave.
Excellent, Anand, keep going. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We are now coming to the close of the seminar as such, but we have Group Captain Vijay Kumar. He's no stranger to this audience. Executive Director MMA. May I request him to give the concluding remarks of this seminar, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to be there between you and the lunch. Concluding remarks, please. Thank you so much for staying till the end. And I must thank a couple of people who made this grand success, especially Dani Foundation. They nominated their rep from all over Tamil Nadu. Thanks for traveling from different part of Tamil Nadu to be here today. All NGOs, all CSR initiative people, members, corporates who are here today make this event a grand success. Anand, big thanks to Anand. You have been launch of the exhibition. We are really privileged. That made the function really grand today. I can assure you that. And Mridula, for time, as usual, for choosing MMA every year, for presenting a great seminar. We have been planning this for the last 6 months, I know. Now, ladies and gentlemen, may I request you please wait for a moment, raise for the national anthem. I know you're all hurrying for a lunch. We are doing on time. May I request somebody to close the door. We'll have a national anthem before we move on to the lunch. Thank you, gentlemen. Kindly join us for lunch. Welcome to the next time.